San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And happy Tuesday to everybody out there in America's finest city. Braden Surprenant, the Braden Surprenant Show. Back and running. We're done with the weird scheduling. I'm done with it. Probably for the rest of the year. Now I'm here every single day. Now, that being said, Thursday, everybody's off. So, this week is the last kind of weird week, aside from other holiday weeks. Like the week of the 4th of July is going to be a little bit all over the place too, just because of people taking days off and everything like that. I don't have any more days off for the rest of the year. There might be a couple times where I might be somewhere else and doing the show, but as of right now, we are locked in for the rest of the summer. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's good to be back with you guys after what was a relatively a 3-day weekend for me. Yesterday, I was signed up to, and I always help out in the Don's Alumni Golf Tournament. I help out my high school that I attended, but also that I coach at now. So we had a tournament yesterday at Fairbanks Ranch. Created a lot of content there. Some content I haven't shown Frank yet. But we're going to have that for you posted on social media, and it might be making some appearances in between commercial breaks, at least for you on YouTube. So stay tuned for some of that and some extra content. We have some things planned to have more content with us at Padre games and at Over the Line. I got teams signed up now for Over the Line, so I will be out there on July 12th. With everybody that's playing, so we'll have some content for that. And over the next week or so, we'll be at the fair, not doing our show, but I'll be out there doing some content as well that will have kind of jazz up for some of the commercial breaks on YouTube for you guys. So a lot planned on the Braden Surprenant Show in the next couple of weeks over the summer. We're going to mix in a lot of different stuff, but it was great to be a part of that yesterday. That's enough about me. Let's talk about kind of the weekend that was for the San Diego Padres, especially with last night's loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not going to spend too much time on the weekend series against Arizona. I think all of our shows did a good job talking about that yesterday. But just from my perspective, that was a series you could not drop 2 out of 3. That was a series that you could not drop 2 out of 3. You needed to be better than that. That game on Saturday was probably the worst loss of the season. It's unacceptable. Losing games like that are always going to feel unacceptable. That being said, you're going to get some of those. Like some of you in the YouTube chat that have DM'd me on Instagram during games, and I try to respond to them as many as possible. I got a lot on Saturday after the loss, in which the Padres blew I think it was a 4-run lead at the time, going into the 9th inning. It's 4-run lead going into the 9th inning. And they put the closer in a non-closing role, and it blew up in their face. And I got a lot of DMs about that. And one of those, and here's the thing, and I have to remind people, as frustrating as the loss was on Saturday, and how unacceptable it was, and how you want to just emotionally fire everybody, we had about 5 of those losses last season. Those are losses that are going to happen over the course of a 162-game season. That doesn't mean you're okay with it, but you got to get the 24-hour rule out of your system. Those are some of those losses that are mixed in. Now, last night, as we waved to Ben, I don't know what he forgot, but he picked it up. Last night, and last night's game was not necessarily one of those losses. Last night showed kind of and it was just like the Dodgers series here at Petco Park. When you play these high-level games, and these series against the Dodgers are the closest thing you're going to have towards playoff games in the whole 162-game season. These games in particular. You could say what you want about, playing in Milwaukee. You could say what you like because the Padres fans or the Padres players are like, oh, that was kind of a playoff atmosphere. Say what you want about playing the Giants. You can say what you want about playing any other team in the National League that's very good, or even some teams in the American League that fill out their stadium. They might give you a tease, but the only thing close to playoff games are against the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's going to be like that. And what happens when you play games like that we saw last Wednesday against LA when the Padres tried to go for it, when you thought about last week in general on the Monday and Tuesday, and even last night, what do those games teach you and those series teach you? It shows you where the holes are on your team, and they are glaring, and a lot of them we know about. You know that left field is a hole in the order usually. Now, they had Gavin Sheets out there. Gavin Sheets is on a hitting streak, and during his hitting streak, he's hit 400. He's actually done very, very well. He's not a left fielder. I mean, they had the collision a little bit with Tyler Wade. It was a little bit of miscommunication. Good thing they made the catch, whatever. But he's playing left field because Wade's got to be in center because Merrill's out. I mean, these particular series show the weaknesses of your team. One of them is, of course, left field. We've talked about that forever. That's been the problem all season long. That's been the problem since Jurickson Profar signed with the Atlanta Braves, even though right now he wouldn't be helping you anyway. That's one of the problems. The other one is catcher. Now, I haven't been in on the catcher conversation so much just because you have to listen to what the Padres are telling you on certain things. Now, this is what they have told you about the catching position and what they have told you about the catching position since the beginning of the season. Does anybody remember that article by Kevin Acee about the catching situation in San Diego? I continue to quote the direct quote from that article about the Padres and how they view the catching position and what they can stomach coming out of Martin Maldonado from an average standpoint. And here's the deal. They value the catching position as a defensive-only position. They have said that. They have repeated that. They're in charge of managing the pitching staff. Okay, that's fair enough. A lot of Major League Baseball teams view the catching position the exact same way. Okay, fair enough. Makes sense. We can stomach Martin Maldonado batting 200. Okay, makes sense. But the other thing they're telling you and what you've seen now, if you pay attention and you read Kevin Acee's newsletter, the Padres are making phone calls around about catching. So obviously, even though they view it as a defensive-only position, even though they said that Martin Maldonado, if he hits 200, we're okay and we can stomach it, the fact of the matter is their actions speak louder than the words. They are shopping around to potentially find a catcher. And again, catching is not a catcher position is not a position in which you're going to get a guy that rakes. Those are unicorns. But you got to be able to find somebody that can hit more than 200. I don't even think you're asking for too much. A couple of the stats that were put in there by Kevin Acee in the newsletter from yesterday's game for today's newsletter. Elias Diaz strikes out every 3 at-bats. Every 3 at-bats, he's punching out. Correction. Elias Diaz does it every 4 at-bats. Martin Maldonado strikes out every 3 at-bats. I understand that the catching position is defensive first and defensive only, but you need to get something out of that. And here's the other thing. If you want to value one of your 9 bats in the order as a defensive-only position, that's fair. I think everybody in baseball has at least one guy in the order that is almost an automatic out. It's hard to find a lineup that's top to bottom the best. even look at the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I ain't making comparisons. People tired of hearing that. But look at the Dodgers. They employ Michael Conforto. He has had an awful year. He's getting paid a lot of money. There's at least one guy in everybody's order that's almost an automatic out in this day and age in Major League Baseball. That position for the Padres is catcher. But the problem with that is you also have a situation in left field. You're not getting the production you would like out of the shortstop position. There's other spots sprinkled around that are not pulling their weight. Therefore, you have a lot of different holes mixed in. So we talked about left field, and we talked about the catching position. Now you look at the middle infield. And right now, Jake Cronenworth and Xander Bogaerts are basically the exact same player in terms of their stats. Bogaerts might have a little bit more in one thing. Cronenworth definitely has a little bit more in home runs, but it's relatively the same player. You're just paying Xander double what you're paying Jake. Now, Xander is starting to hit the ball a little bit better, which is great to see. It's probably not up to the standard that a lot of fans want, but he hit the double yesterday. His exit velo is very high. It's getting better. So hopefully that helps out. But that's still, if Xander's hitting, Jake's not, and if Jake's hitting, Xander's not, and you're not getting consistent at-bats. So you have those particular problems. You don't have a right-handed DH. You only have a left-handed DH. And you got guys in your batting order. I mean, congratulations to Trenton Brooks. Trenton Brooks is, I'm pretty sure he's my age. The graphics last night on the broadcast, I think, were off. Trenton Brooks, a San Diego kid from Granite Hills High School, got to play for the Padres yesterday. Right? But, like, teams that are making the playoffs are not employing guys like Trenton Brooks. It's not disrespect to Trenton Brooks. It's just the fact of the matter. Or guys like Luis Camposano. Right? I mean, think about some of the bench pieces. Like Jose Iglesias has not been what he was in New York last year. He's not even playing to what you thought he was going to be able to play at when he was a Padre in 2023. Look at the rest of the depth. I mean, there is none. But remember, you were going into the season knowing that the core six had to carry the team. And you currently don't have the full core six because you have lost Merrill for the next 7 games, which is kind of a fluke in general. So you got to be able to make some improvements to this roster. Now, that being said, and we're going to talk more about this throughout the day. And if you want to join in on the conversation, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. The problem that you find here with a lot of these issues that the Padres have, we haven't even talked about the pitching staff yet. I mean, starting pitching, I thought was good to an extent, and then everybody's getting hurt, and you're not getting like Dylan Cease is not an ace the way he's playing. And I don't think he might project to be an ace in the future. I mean, he's a good starting pitcher. I think he's got great stuff. But last night he kept leaking stuff over the heart of the plate after he mowed the Dodgers down almost first time through after he did it last Tuesday. But when he hits the open market and he asks for ace-like numbers, I don't think the Padres should give him that because I don't think he is that in the future. I think he's good. I don't think he's an ace. Like, to me, like an ace is, we know what an ace is. You know what an ace is? An ace is 1998 Kevin Brown. That's an ace. He starts, you're winning, they're not touching him. Not this, like, oh, he's got really good stuff and high strikeouts, but he gives up run. That's a good starting pitcher. That's not an ace. That's a 2 or a 3. That's a 2 or a 3. So that's another issue potentially for the Padres. Now, they don't have the resources, I don't think, to fix all of these little problems. And Mike Schilt said it in the newsletter about how they have to find some answers internally. And that's a fact. So we talked about it a little bit last week. You need an improvement in left field, obvious. You could use an improvement at catcher. I don't know if you can find one. You could always use more pitching. Bullpen did a decent job last night. And maybe you can win with bullpen. But what happened over the weekend with San Francisco making a big move has sent, maybe a little bit of a panic ensued of like, we got to go make a move right now. It's a slow market. And I think the Rafael Devers move was a little bit of an anomaly because the Red Sox were tired of the guy's BS and were like, you know what? Get rid of this guy. Let's have somebody pay for this guy to go away. And they found it in San Francisco as a perfect match. San Francisco is not getting anybody to sign in free agency. Nobody wants their money. But you could trade to try to get some of these players. The Red Sox didn't want to pay for Rafael Devers anymore. Giants had to pay for him. That's why the price for Devers wasn't that bad when you look at it in terms of prospect capital or overall players. Red Sox needed pitching. They got 2 pitchers. They got a couple of minor league players, and they dumped $30 million a year off to the Giants. They don't have to worry about it anymore. Now they can go sign Kyle Tucker during the offseason. But after that move was made, a lot of people are like, hey, the Padres got to go sign. They're going to make a trade right now. They got to make a trade right now. It's a slow market. They're not in that point yet. But these series against the Dodgers point out a lot of major flaws that need to be addressed before the deadline. And they're going to have to get creative. We talked about that last week in certain moves. And I don't necessarily think, we'll talk about the Devers trade in a little bit in the 11 o'clock hour. I don't think the Red Sox dealing Devers takes the Padres out of potentially getting Duran. Again, their outfield's still based on being very youthful, and they need pitching. They swept the Yankees with Rafael Devers. We're going to talk more about what the division looks like with the Devers trade. We're going to talk about the Devers trade that happened over the weekend, how it impacts the Padres. We're going to break down yesterday's game as well, Padres-Dodgers. We're going to talk about what the Padres need at the trade deadline. I mean, we got a lot of Padres baseball talk to discuss. And if you want to join, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to talk a little bit more about Dylan Cease when we come back. We spent a lot of time on the position players. Have we seen the best of Dylan Cease? Does he have more? What did Mike Schilt have to say? We'll talk about it when we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Got a ticket giveaway today. 2 tickets to the Padres Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. We'll be giving those away in the 1 o'clock hour. I see somebody has walked off with that bobblehead, Frank.
It's here yesterday.
Oh, man. Wonder what host took the bobblehead.
Maybe that's what Ben was coming back for.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was.
Just didn't notice.
This might be funny if it was more in the moment than anything else. Yesterday, at the end of the tournament, my buddies came back to my house and we watched the Padre game against the Dodgers. And at one point, my friend said, "Man, I got like James Wood and CJ Abrams attacking my calves right now." I was like, "What?" He's like, "I got gnats all over my legs."
God.
Started listing all of former Nationals players. Hey, Ryan Zimmerman. Speaking of the Nats. Nats are in town next week. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to be joined by Bob Kendrick, who is the Negro League Museum president. He's going to give us a preview of the big event happening on Thursday, on June 10th and June 19th, the East-West Classic that is going to happen at Rickwood Park. It's a pretty cool event. If you haven't heard about it before, we're going to get a full preview of that coming up at 10:35 with Bob Kendrick. I do want to talk a little bit about Dylan Cease, but I do want to get to your phone calls before we get to the next segment. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Scott's East County in Santee. Jerry, you're batting leadoff. What's going on, Jerry?
Hey, not too much, Brandon. How you doing? I hope good. I got a couple of things, and hopefully bear with me. Number one, I'm a big Mike Schilt fan, but I got to say in the last about week, I've been concerned about how quickly he's going to the bullpen and some of his bullpen choices. But no doubt he's still the best manager we've had since Bruce Bochy left. My observation, though, is with the Devers trade, to hear that the Padres were in talks with them makes it very interesting to me and kind of gives me some solace that the Padres must have a little bit of money that they're willing to spend. Obviously, we won't know the details of that and never probably will. But I'm encouraged as a Padre fan that the fact that it seems like they're willing to spend some money to shore up some of these positions. And last, I think it's going to be a big trade. I don't think Preller's going small. I think he's going big. That's all I got, bud.
Well, I appreciate the call, Jerry. I kind of thought about that, too, when I saw the news on that the Padres had called in on Devers for a couple of reasons, right? Like, where's he going to play? I mean, he'd probably be a DH for the Padres only because he's not better than anybody else defensively in the infield for the Padres. He's not going to play third with Manny there. He's not going to play second. He's not going to play first. I guess he could theoretically play first, but maybe platoon, but that wouldn't make any sense. And maybe DH. But the thing, and Frank and I were sending texts back and forth on this, and I was like, the thing that gets me on that particular rumor was the money. Because, like, Boston wasn't going to get rid of him and eat the contract, right? So, like, most of that contract was going to have to be paid by the Padres. Unless they were going to give up big-time pieces, which you knew they weren't going to do. Obviously, that trade didn't work out. And maybe it was just A.J. Preller doing his due diligence. But at the same time, like, them asking about it is very interesting when it comes to the money thing. Because the entire time we've been talking about it's like, well, they don't have the money to spend and they don't have the capital and they got to stay under this threshold and everything like that. The fact they're even thinking about adding another one of those contracts to your payroll isn't, first of all, insane, unless they have the ability to do it because of, I think it's a good money sense of where the Padres may be at right now. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Kevin in Chula Vista, got a couple minutes here. You're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on? Kevin, are you there? He fell asleep. We'll talk to him in a little bit. I do want to talk about Dylan Cease when we come back in the next hour a little bit, but we do need to get to our guests, and we want to break on time. Coming up next on the Braden Surprenant Show, a very special guest, Bob Kendrick, who is the Negro League Museum president, will join us on the show to talk about the second annual East-West Classic and talk about a little bit about the Negro League Museum and everything that they've put together. This is an event that Tony Gwynn Jr. participated in last year, had a pump in the game. He's not participating this year, but we will talk about all of that with Bob Kendrick when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:34 on a Tuesday morning. Padres and Dodgers game 2 will be coming up at 7:10 p.m. Pacific time, 6:10 at the Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. I'm Braden Surprenant, leading up to 2 o'clock before Tony Gwynn Jr. and Chris Ello take over from 2 to about 6. And right now, I am joined by the president of the Negro League Museum. He is a member of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. He was an inductee back in 2014 for his role in what he has done as a sports administrator, but more importantly, what he has done for the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. It is a phenomenal place. I've heard great stories about it. I got to go out there and visit it myself. But Bob Kendrick joins us on the Braden Surprenant show as we talk about the East-West Classic coming up for the second annual East-West Classic, which will happen on June 19th, on Juneteenth at Rickwood Field, the legendary field. We're going to get you a full preview with that. But let's introduce our guest, Bob. Bob, what's going on? How's your Tuesday going?
Well, Tuesday's going pretty good, and thanks so much for having me on the show.
I appreciate you coming on. I mean, there's a lot of great things to talk about when it comes to the history of the Negro Leagues and celebrating the history of the Negro Leagues. And you have been part of this museum in Kansas City for a long time now. I know there's a lot of people that would like to go check it out, but how did this museum come about? How did the Negro League Museum, be established? And what are some of the cool things about what this museum is in Kansas City?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've been involved with this museum. It's hard for me to believe for 32 years. I started as a volunteer in 1993. Who knew? And of course, now I have the tremendous honor of trying to lead what I think is one of the most important cultural institutions in the world, that being the Negro League Baseball Museum, because it brings a story that had unfortunately escaped the pages of American history books. And that's the incredible story of the Negro Leagues, a league that was established right here in Kansas City on February 13th, 1920, just around the corner from where we currently operate. So we operate in the exact same area that Andrew Root Foster established the Negro National League in 1920. The Negro Leagues would operate amazingly, folks, for 40 years, from 1920 until 1960. And so it had a tremendous run. And of course, it gave some of the greatest Black and Hispanic athletes an opportunity to showcase their world-class baseball abilities. This museum brings that story to life. And so you're going to come here and you're going to meet some of the greatest baseball players to ever put on a baseball uniform. But as I remind folks, by the time you leave, you walk away with a much deeper, richer appreciation for just how special this country really is. Because this is not a sad story. It is a triumphant story. You won't let me play with you? I'll create a league of my own. And that's exactly what they did.
Talking with Bob Kendrick, who's the Negro League Museum president on the here on the Braden Surprenant show. We got a big event coming up. It's now the second annual East-West Classic. Our friend here, Tony Gwynn Jr., participated in it last year. But the East-West Classic, give us a little breakdown of how this came about, why the game was established, and why they play it at the historic Rickwood Field.
Well, last year it was introduced as a showcase event in Cooperstown alongside the opening of their new Negro Leagues exhibit, Souls of the Game. And I was very fortunate to be there for the opening of the exhibition and to see this showcase event that was really kind of orchestrated by my dear friend, the great C.C. Sabathia and Ryan Howard. And of course, both of them are intimately involved in this game that will be played at Rickwood Field this year. And of course, Rickwood is the oldest active professional ballpark in the country. And last year it was host to that epic national, international salute to the Negro Leagues that was put together to really pay tribute to Willie Mays. And you may recall that Mr. Mays passed away 2 days before we actually had that game. And for those who don't know, a 17-year-old Willie Mays would begin his career at Rickwood Field, patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons in the Negro Leagues. And so I was thrilled to see that they are going to host another East-West All-Star game. This comes from the vaunted All-Star game that was created in the Negro Leagues in 1933, the same year as Major League Baseball's All-Star game. And as I remind my guests, yes, it did outdraw Major League Baseball's All-Star game. Fellas, they put over 50,000 fans in Chicago's Comiskey Park. And so to see CeCe and Ryan pull together some of their contemporaries to put on those uniforms and to recreate what was one of the greatest sporting events in American sports history, but nobody knew anything about it. It has been magical. Last year was so special that they wanted to do it again, and I hope they'll continue to do this for years to come because it's a tremendous way to pay tribute to, again, one of the greatest sporting events that virtually no one knew anything about, the old East-West All-Star Game.
Well, this one coming up on Juneteenth at Rickwood Field has a lot of great players from Major League Baseball of years past that are playing in this particular game. You mentioned, CeCe and Ryan Howard, some of the guys. But how are the teams that are they the ones that send the invites out? How do they determine who gets to play and how do they pick up their teams?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what they do. They send an invite out, and anybody who wants to play, who's able to play, can play. And out of you all's neck of the woods, my dear friend Jerry Harrison Jr. will be there. Scott Harrison, of course, their grandfather, the late great Sam Harrison, played in the Negro Leagues. They're from 5 generations of professional Harrison ball players, and Sam played there at Rickwood Field at one point in time. And what a legacy moment that will be for them. But yeah, they go out, they send the word around, and I think they had so much fun last year, and no one got seriously hurt. That's the best part about it, because, when you've been away from the game, but then when you get back in it, the adrenaline starts to flow, and you start to think that you could do things that you used to do when you were doing them. And so no one got hurt, but they had such a tremendous time that they wanted to do it again. And like I said, I hope that they will continue to bring this event to the forefront as a tribute to the history of the Negro Leagues.
Well, the rosters you can go find on MLB.com. They have the events page on there, MLB.com/events/Rickwood. It does have the rosters on there. And for maybe a lot of people here in San Diego that want to be able to watch it, is there any way you can watch from a distance?
Yeah, I think the game is going to be televised on the MLB Network. And so you should be able to see the game as it is happening, certainly a delayed version of the game. And, I'm a little disappointed because I'm not going to be able to be at Rickwood because I had an unfortunate knee surgery, which I'm going to actually have to have another surgery. And so I'm not going to be able to be there in attendance. And that's so tremendously disappointing for me, but I will be there in spirit. It would be great to be there with all of my dear friends because they're doing something special and meaningful. And anytime that we can give Negro Leagues history a mainstream voice, it is welcomed by this museum. It just continues to raise the profile and the interest in this subject matter. And I've always believed that there was never a time that people didn't want to know about the Negro Leagues. They just had no way to know about the Negro Leagues until this museum really stepped to the forefront, and now it's starting to gain notoriety.
Talking with Bob Kendrick, the Negro League Museum president, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. Bob, there was a couple of exhibits that were, here in San Diego and that are still here at the San Diego Public Library. How do you guys put exhibits out there outside of just Kansas City where you guys are located? Are there any more that go around the country? How do you guys, what are some of the events that you guys put on outside of obviously the East-West Classic, but some of the other ways that people maybe local to them can go out and learn more about the Negro Leagues?
Yeah, no, we've been very fortunate that we have built these traveling exhibitions. And so you're right, we've had a tremendous run there in San Diego with our Barrier Breaker exhibit. That's at the San Diego Public Library. It will be there through June 20th. So for those who are listening, you still have an opportunity to get down to the library and check it out. It is an extraordinary exhibition that celebrates all of Major League Baseball's integration pioneers, those players who broke their respective color barriers with each of their major league teams. Because we know Jackie Robinson's story. And if you don't know Jackie's story, you've got films, you've got books that you can turn to. But when we talk about Larry Doby, very few folks understand the significance of Larry Doby's pioneering role. He would integrate the American League just weeks after Jackie breaks the color barrier in the National League with the Cleveland Indians. And he has been the forgotten man, but that's kind of how we are in our society. We always celebrate the first. We rarely ever remember the second. And as you can well imagine, if the number 16, you can pretty much forget it. Nobody ever talks about you. And we wanted to tell their story because it didn't get any easier for Elijah Pumpsy Green, who would complete the integration cycle with the Boston Red Sox in 1959. 12 years after Jackie breaks the color barrier, Boston would be the last team to sign a black ball player, again, in Pumpsy Green. And they all had their trials and tribulations as they were trying to blaze their path to pursue their major league careers. And their stories deserve to be more than just a footnote in baseball and American history. And so we decided to create this traveling exhibition. It has been touring around the country. It is one of 7 national traveling exhibitions that we've created. And we still have designs to build at least 2 to 3 more over the next 5 years, because as much as I want everyone to come to Kansas City, I know that's not possible. We didn't want to leave this history isolated in Kansas City. So we found unique ways to tell the story and get them out to the public. And maybe that will whet your appetite to the point that you will want to come to Kansas City. And I just think it's also part of what, as a teaching institution, is what we need to do and have to do.
Last thing for you, Bob, for everybody that does want to go to Kansas City and check out this museum, what is the best way to do that, to plan the trip? Where's the best website to go check out?
You can check us out at www.nlbm.com to learn what's happening at the Negro League Baseball Museum, to make a contribution to support the Negro League Baseball Museum, to look at when you might want to come to Kansas City to enjoy this museum. You can build it around the baseball schedule. And, you know, if your team is coming in to play the Royals, or you just want to go to a major league game, come in, tour the Negro League Baseball Museum, eat some great Kansas City barbecue, and then go watch a baseball game. I don't know if it gets any better than that.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does, Bob. I'm looking forward to potentially going out there. I want to go check it out. I've heard a lot of great things about it, so it should be a good time. We put the link on our YouTube page and in our Twitch page. Bob, we appreciate the time as always, and look forward to talking to you again.
Hey, man, anytime. Thank you guys again for the opportunity. And I look forward at some point in time to welcoming you to Kansas City.
I look forward to it, Bob. Thanks again.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
Bob Kendrick, Negro League Museum president, joining us on the Braden Surprenant Show to talk about the second annual East-West Classic, which will be happening on Thursday, which is June 19th, Juneteenth. They'll be playing at Rickwood Field, which is the place where Willie Mays got his start. It's a historical place. They just renovated a little bit. It hosted the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro League from 1924 through 1960. Willie Mays began his professional career there with the Black Barons in 1948, played with them before beginning his legendary MLB career as a member of the Giants in 1951. Rickwood Field was the site of the final Negro League World Series game in October of 1948, which saw Mays' Black Barons falling to the Homestead Grays in 5 games. Place opened in 1910, cost $75,000 to build Rickwood Field back in 1910. Capacity of 10,800, and it was modeled after Pittsburgh's Forbes Field. So the game coming up on Thursday for this. Again, Tony Gwynn Jr. played in it last year. Hit a home run last year in the game. I don't know why we don't see the highlights of that. That needs to be on on YouTube, like recurring during their breaks. But a lot of San Diego connections in terms of former Padres playing, and as well as San Diegans in the game. I'll just go through the rosters. The East is Edwin Jackson, former Padre. Jake Peavy is playing in the game. Ryan Howard, Jerry Hairston Jr., Destrange Gordon, Xavier Scruggs, the Poway Titan. Josh Barfield, Chris Young, Justin Upton, Michael Bourne, Curtis Granderson, Andrew Jones, Dexter Fowler, Gary Sheffield, CC Sabathia, Dylan Betances, LaTroy Hawkins, Scott Kazmir's playing, Jason Kendall, San Diego product Adam Jones, Prince Fielder, BJ Upton, Jamile Weeks, Denard Span, Nick Swisher, Mike Cameron, Scott Hairston, Matt Kemp So there's a lot of former big leaguers that are all going to be participating in the game. Should be fun to watch them all out there and playing an all-star game. And a big thanks to Frank Marchese for getting the job done on the guest.
That was absolutely perfect. I've loved watching him and learning about the Negro Leagues through MLB the Show, because I believe it was last year or 2 years ago they started to implement those storylines, and he's the narrator telling the story before you go into the scenarios. Such a great listen. I could listen to him talk all day long. I've been so excited for this for like over a month now. We had this idea, and for it to finally happen and turn out as amazing as it did, I am over the moon right now.
Yeah, it was a great job by Bob. It's very informational too. You get to learn a lot. We learned a lot during that entire thing, and that was fun to talk about. I mean, these All-Star games are great. Seeing some of the players that used to watch, play at a high level, get out there and swing the stick a little bit and throw the rock a little bit, and it should be a fun one. The East-West Classic at Rick Wood Field. Again, second annual. Hopefully they continue this in the future. Big thanks to Bob Kendrick on that one. We want to dive more into Padres baseball, and in the next hour, we got a lot of the kind of aftermath of the Rafael Devers trade to the Giants and what that means. I saw a lot of Padres fans going like, Padres got to go make a move now. We're going to go make a move right now. I think it's a slow market. And I want to talk a little bit more about, like, just in general, this Padres team. Again, like, I get it. I understand. They're not playing well as of late. I think there's a couple of things you could be optimistic about when it comes to the Padres. I think the team is drastically different when they don't have all six of their core six in the lineup, even though not all six of their core six have been producing. But they're going through a rough time right now when it comes to their offense, and I think they've kind of turned some of that around over the weekend against Arizona. Yesterday, not so much. Got 3 runs out of yesterday. They had a blow-up inning by Dylan Cease in yesterday's game. But I saw somebody in the YouTube chat earlier talking about how it's like 2023 all over again. Not really. The Padres, as of right now, are 39-32. 7 games above 500, which is back to their original 7-0 start that they had to the season. That's why getting off to a 7-0 start was so great. So when you look at it, and I said at the beginning of the year, after they went 7-0 to start the year, they play 500 ball the rest of the way. I think it's like 84, 85. I think it's around 84 to 86 wins. I'd have to do the math again. Is that enough to make the playoffs? Not really sure. But they've continued to play at a 500 pace since their first 7 games. This is exactly what they've done. They've played 500 since the first week of the season. They've played 500 ball. If you factor out the first 7 games, they've played 500 ball. And last season at this time, to the first 71 games, they were 36-35. I mean, last season, the San Diego Padres, who played 500 ball through their first 100 games, people thought last year, I was one of them. I never really think this. Last year, near the end of the season, people thought the Padres could win the World Series. That's not even that's with not major ads at the deadline. Not major ads at the deadline. They played 500 ball through the first 100 games. I remember hearing people talk about how they should have sold last year because they didn't play well enough to buy at the deadline. They played 500 ball, first 100 games last year. And they ripped off in the second half and did great. The year before that, in 2023, where the thing was an epic collapse, they played 1 game under 500, 35-36. And in 2022, when they ended up beating the Dodgers in the postseason, they're off to a lot better start than the Padres are right now, but they're 5 games off that pace. They were 44-27 through their first 71 games. Padres are 39-32 right now. The Dodgers haven't fully taken over that division. You're still well within range and in striking distance, although a bad week this week in LA could probably put you behind the 8 ball a little bit. But we notice all of the problems that the Padres have. And what I'm saying on top of that is, like, you need to relax a little bit. Like, the last couple of games have not been that great. I will say that. I mean, in Arizona, losing 2 out of 3 in Arizona is not great. But to me, the way you view things is the attitude that you might potentially have. I get dinged for being negative all the time. You guys don't hear it on the air. I try to be over positive on the air to outweigh the negativity that I have. But even negative me understands that you have to be looking at this in a little bit more of a positive light instead of hoping the doom comes. It's almost like some people are looking for it. Rafael Devers was traded to the Giants. There's a lot of things that break down that affect the Padres. We'll talk about it when we come back. 11 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. This hour on 97.3 The Fan. In the 1 o'clock hour, we'll be giving away tickets to the Padres-Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. I don't know. Anyway, last hour, I want to mention, which is a great job by Frank in getting Bob Kendrick. I thought he was great. I think we've got a lot of compliments on that interview as well. Go check out the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. There is a exhibit going on right now in San Diego until Friday, in which they have their Breaking Barriers museum or exhibit. That's at the San Diego Public Library downtown. Go check that out. Last hour was brought to you by Amazon. Okay, I've got some good news, and I've got some great news. The good news is that Prime Day is almost here. The great news, this year, you'll have 4 days to find deals on all of your favorite things. Shop Prime Day July 8th through the 11th. All right, just to kind of get us back on track, I teased about talking about Dylan Cease. We're going to talk about Dylan Cease, and then we're going to get into the Devers stuff. Dylan Cease, last night, 5 innings, 8 hits, 6 runs, 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, threw 101 pitches, 63 for strikes. Dylan Cease last night started off like an ace, building off of what he did against the Dodgers last week. And when he was locked in. He looked like he was going to be locked in the rest of the game. He struck out Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman to start the game last night. Struck all 3 of them out to start the game. I don't think anybody does that. I saw a tweet. It might have been the first time that has ever happened with those guys in starting a game. I don't know if that was legit or not. I thought I saw something like that. Regardless, even if somebody has done it, it's very impressive. That's the top 3 players in any order in Major League Baseball, and Cease sat him down 1, 2, 3. Then sat down the next 2 guys he saw in the next inning. And you thought he was going to be locked in for the rest of the game. His stuff was still good. After the game, Dylan Cease talked about the fact that he thought his stuff was good, and sometimes those games happen. I will say this when talking about Dylan Cease. I will say that some of the knocks, not all of them, because a lot of them were seeds. Like Pages hit a seed down the line. Ohtani roped a double to the gap. I mean, there were some hits that were smoked. But a decent amount of those hits that he gave up, out of the 8 hits that he gave up, a handful of those guys were seeing eye singles. Didn't get too many of a break. He still ended the night with 9 punch-outs. So the stuff was good. The location, it started to fall off a little bit. He left the slider up a little bit more, as you heard from Dave Roberts yesterday after the game. And so the question becomes, have we seen the best of Dylan Cease? This being said, by the way, this is his highest ERA in his career to start a season. And not only is it his highest ERA to start a season, it is his highest career ERA since his rookie season in 2019, when he had a 5.79 ERA. This year in 15 starts, Dylan Cease is 2-6 with a 4.69 ERA, 80 2/3 innings pitched, 105 strikeouts, and 30 walks. That's not a ace-type pitcher. You want to mention, you factor out the starting in Sacramento, and it numbers lows down, and last night it was all but 1 inning, and that's not an ace. When you talk about an ace, it's Kevin Brown in 98. You knew when he was starting, the Padres were winning, and the Padres were probably not going to give up any runs. Hardly ever. That is an ace. Jake Peavy, the year you want to cite, that is an ace. Dylan Cease is a very good pitcher. He could be a 2. He's probably a 3. I mean, but he's not pitching to an ace level. He's not pitching to an ace level. So that will be more of a conversation probably during the offseason about Dylan Cease, right? Like, are you going to give him a lot of money to be a number 2 or number 3? I don't think the answer is yes. If you're going to spend the money, maybe it's King that might be an ace. But if you're going to spend the money that it costs to keep King or Cease, you're not going to be able to have 2. And if you're going to spend that money, like, they better be a 2 or a 1. Not like a 3 or a 2. You can go get another Nick Pivetta, right? Like, Nick Pivetta is doing a lot better than expected. He was supposed to be the 4. Go find some of those guys for a little bit cheaper. Have we seen the best of Cease? Only 5 quality starts this season, has allowed 3 or more runs in 9 of 15 starts. Again, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he's probably not an ace. At least in a Padres uniform, he hasn't been. I mean, an ace goes out there in the playoffs and dominates. I'm not blaming the second time he pitched in the playoffs for the Padres, because I think that was a misplay by the Padres decision makers on that in terms of the short rest. But the first outing he had in the postseason last year wasn't necessarily great. But for people that are saying, like, trade him at the deadline, here's the problem with that. You can't trade this guy at the deadline if you're in contention. Who else is going to pitch? You're not going to be able to trade him for a bat and then go get another starting pitcher somewhere that's better than he is. He's not bad. I'm saying he's a good pitcher. I'm just saying he's not an ace. So even though his contract is up at the end of the year, you cannot sell that piece at the deadline. If you're going to sell something, you might sell a rise, but even selling a rise doesn't make a lot of sense. You need bats in the lineup. The only thing the Padres, I think, that they can sell at a deadline in which of a player on expiring contract where they can still win despite him being on the team, right? Like, if you get rid of this guy, you could still win like the Detroit Tigers did last year when they traded away Flaherty. Like, you could still compete without this guy. I think there's only one of those on the roster. And that's your closer in Robert Suarez. To me, that's the only player you can part ways with on an expiring contract in which it benefits the team that you are trading him to, and it might benefit you back with maybe a bat or something like that in terms of, like, adding another player back. You're not going to be able to trade Robert Suarez to the Red Sox for Jarren Duran. They're not going to do a rental of Suarez, a relief pitcher, to give up years of control of a guy that just won an all-star game or just went to an all-star game. You might be more inclined to do it with Dylan Cease. Maybe they can sign Dylan Cease when they acquire him. There's a couple of those mixed in, right? So you can, but at the same time, like, if you decide to trade Dylan Cease at the deadline, which a lot of people say, like, I'll trade him, you better have something back ready to go. And I don't think you do. And I don't think you can find those type of players, because anybody that's got good starting pitching or anybody that's in need of starting pitching is not going to want to give up too much for the starting pitcher. They're still trying to win in the postseason. So King being hurt's not great. Darvish continued to be up, like, he's going to start at the end of the month. He's going to start at the end of the month. He's going to start at the end of the month. We heard that like 3 different times. Not great. Don't expect anything out of Joe Musgrove this year, even though, like, he's trying to fight his way to be like an opener in October, like give you an outing like Ohtani just gave the Dodgers. That's about basically all he could do, and he'd be just doing it for this love of the city. Wouldn't expect any of that. You can't afford to give up anything else right now. And I still think, like, Dylan Cease, again, he's a good pitcher. He's just not an ace right now. He didn't feel that bad after the outing last night. A couple of things didn't go his way. Mike Schilt answered what he thought out of Dylan Cease's outing. Here's what Mike Schilt had to say.
They put a lot of good at-bats together, quite frankly. I talked to Ruben about it. He's like, man, he made some good pitches, and even the eye test proved it. They found some gaps, found some space in the outfield, but, I thought he threw the ball well overall, and, they just put together good at-bats.
He had off to a great start. First 8 batters, he struck out 6. So
Right.
Things changed. Did he convey to you what might have gone wrong?
No, I don't. Listen, he was really good, really sharp. Like you said, punch out early, crisp, ball coming out, 99, a lot of life, a lot of where it was going. No, he just fell behind on the back to Smith. He took the ball in the breaking ball down the line, and they found some grass. So, he just executed some pitches, and they took some good at bats. There's really nothing more to say than that.
There's a lot of truth in there. There's also a lot of Mike Schilt's never going to throw his player under the bus. There's some of that. So take that for what it's worth. But at the end of the day, Dylan Cease and the Padres were not necessarily upset with the outing. Sometimes good teams put together good at-bats. Again, I'm not saying he doesn't have trade value. He definitely does. What I'm saying is if you decide to do that, you better have somebody ready to pitch. And if you think you're rolling into the postseason with Vasquez, Kolek, and Matt Waldron, it's going to be an early exit. Just because Dylan Cease isn't an ace doesn't mean he's not a very good pitcher. He's still a good pitcher. I would rather take my chances with Dylan Cease in a postseason game than any of the three that I just talked about. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to get back to your phone calls when we come back. We're also going to talk a little bit about how Rafael Devers in the division affects the Padres. Braden Surprenant Show continues on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. 11:18 on a Tuesday morning. Padres and Dodgers will continue their 4-game series coming up tonight at 7:10. 7:10 starts in Los Angeles. Those seem really late now after watching all the 6:40 games.
No kidding.
I mean the 6:40 games, like, I like. I prefer the 6:10. 6:10 COVID starts were money. I understand why you can't have a game at 6:10 if you want people that work to go to games and all.
4:10 starts are pretty solid, I will say. Watching all the East Coast games.
Oh, the East Coast games. I don't like the 4:10 starts. I'm doing stuff at 4 o'clock. 5:40s are the best times. Can't have 5:40 every night though. 6:10. I don't mind the 6:10, but the 7:10 starts in Los Angeles. Just last night just seemed like it was like, why am I up so late? Oh, the game started at 7:10. 7:10 start, 6:10 pregame with Sam Levitt, Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show. Gwen and Chris will be on after me at 2 o'clock with Matt Scraby as we continue your Padres-Dodgers coverage this week. I love Padres-Dodgers weeks, by the way, because of the overreacting from a lot of people. Last week we had trade everybody into planning the parade route into trading everybody, which I guess has turned into trade everybody again. I saw one on Twitter. It was like, trade Dylan Cease for prospects and then reallocate those prospects to go get a legitimate ace. What? It's not MLB The Show. If you do, in fact, trade Dylan Cease at the deadline or before the deadline, and you get you're not going to get a lot of prospect capital back. He is a rental. I don't think those are enough with what you have to go get then a legitimate ace. And plus, there's not like a lot of aces available. They're not just growing on trees. That was one of them. The other one is like, I had a friend text me and he goes, my friend's group chat says we got to trade now at the we got to sell at the deadline. Got to sell at the deadline. Got to sell at the deadline. You cannot. Does anybody listen to the open of the show? I know he only plays twice. We haven't really changed it. But I continue to say, again, you cannot punt on Manny Machado prime years thinking it's going to be better in the future. Like, you just can't do that. In order for the team, I think, to sell at the deadline, they got to be double digits out of a wild card spot when it comes to the deadline. Is that a fair punt year, Frank? Double digits out of the wild card and games back at the deadline is the only time you should sell when these are the prime years of your big contract guys.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, the last couple of years, you were 500. You were either a game over or a game under at this time last year, and they were buying.
And they were buying anyway. This year, they're 7 games above 500 right now. We're only at game 71. They got 29 more games before they're at game 100. And last year, they lost game 100 to go to 50 and 50. They're 7 games above 500, and people are ready to pull the plug on this thing. It's just incredible to me. And tonight, when the Padres win, because I'm going to think positively here, tonight, when the Padres beat the Dodgers, it's going to flip everything again. It's going to flip everything. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Jason and Encinitas, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Jason?
Hey, Braden. This conversation about the Padres, sort of what you just alluded to, sort of, being in a similar spot as last year, and the prospect of them making a similar run. I look at some numbers and have a little bit of doubt based upon, a couple stats that I just wanted to share real quick. I looked just simply at average and power home runs. I could have looked at OPS and OPS plus, and et cetera, et cetera. But in left field, Profar had 24 home runs and batted .280 last year. And obviously the myriad of people they've shuffled out there haven't come close to that production. Fernando, since we're almost basically halfway through the year, you can basically double their results this year, project out to a full year. So Fernando's actually, on track to have similar numbers. In fact, more power compared to last year. Behind the dish, Higashioka hit 17 home runs, about a 220. Maldi and Diaz are about, 200, a little lighter, but they've hit 7 home runs. So if you double that, that's like 14. So it's really shouldn't be that much different when you annualize that compared to Higashioka's power. The other big one, though, in addition to Profar, though, was really Jackson Merrill. I mean, he had 24 home runs and batted 292, and he's got five home runs this year. He's been on the DL a couple times. But really, if you look at the lineup this year compared to last and look at, use those as proxies, really it puts a shining light on Jackson and the production in left field, and that they really do need to, obviously find a bat there. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that is the case. I mean, Jackson's missed a lot of time so far in 2025. And I thought last year he more than made up for what were the potential holes last year when you look at the roster construction. You look at the roster construction last year, they were taking a risk on starting Jackson Merrill in center field for a guy that played shortstop the majority of his career. He was pulled up at a very young age. And he was an all-star. I mean, he was over expectations. Now, despite missing the time that he has missed and not necessarily probably playing up to the level that a lot of people would expect Jackson Merrill to play, he's still hitting around 300. I mean, he's still hitting very well, just not up to what he was doing last year. I don't know if there's a little bit of a, obviously dealing with the injuries is a little bit different, but whether or not the league is adjusted to Jackson Merrill or not, but that's a big contributing factor. You can talk about catcher. I mean, Kyle Higashioka had a really good year. And then Jurickson Profar, the best, arguably the best year of his career. So you had all those things working out. You hit on Peralta and Solano, although Peralta was one game away from potentially getting DFA'd last year if it wasn't for the home run he hit in Texas. Ended up working out. A lot of those players started taking over midway to the end of the season. It wasn't at the beginning of the season. And so they're playing better than it was at the beginning of the season of last year than they were last year. And you think they're going to make a move or two at the deadline. I think they are. Wouldn't be surprised. I'm just saying, it's not doom and gloom out there. You're 7 games above 500. Now, if you're 7 games under 500, I can understand the legitimate gripe on some of these things. And not to say you shouldn't be angry with the way they played over the weekend. Or even last night. They haven't been playing very good baseball. They've been playing, since the first 7 games of the year, 500 ball. That's what they've played. They've played 500 balls since the first 7 games of the season. I say this every year. Most teams in baseball play around 500 ball and go on a couple of winning streaks. Those are the teams that are at the top of the echelon, of the top of the leaderboard. And then the teams that go on multiple losing streaks are at the bottom. It's very rare that you see a team play at a very high clip or a team that plays at a very low clip. Now, there's exceptions to the rule. And I don't want to generalize, but more times than not, teams in Major League Baseball play around 500 ball. And that's what they've been doing. And they got to go on a couple more hot streaks here. But they do need a bat. They need a bat. Whether it's left field or it's a DH, whatever it may be, they do need a bat. Unfortunately for the Padres, it's a little bit of a slow trade market. And don't let the Giants trading for Rafael Devers fool you into thinking those moves are out there. That's a very specific situation in which the Red Sox were tired of Rafael Devers. Devers sounded like he wanted a trade out of Boston. San Francisco was willing to spend the money because they hadn't spent the money in free agency because nobody will take their money. And so they make the move. People are upset. The Giants didn't give up enough to acquire Rafael Devers. Well, they're taking on the $30 million a year or whatever it is to have Devers on the team for the next 8 years. That eliminates some of the price because now the Red Sox can use all that money that they had reserve for Rafael Devers and give it to Kyle Tucker during the offseason or some other big-time free agent. That was a rare occurrence. Other than that, the trade market is going to be slow. There are still some teams that think they're in it. You have to be patient on some of these deals to get the best deal possible. And we have seen that out of A.J. Preller. I've seen hate thrown towards A.J. Preller. I've seen love thrown towards A.J. Preller just today for the people commenting online. He has done a fair job, I would say. Has he done a great job? No, he's missed on a lot. Has he done a poor job? No, he's hit on a lot. But the Padres need a bat. You just have to be patient until they get to that point. And again, it's frustrating watching this team. You're banging your head against the wall, watching them do the same thing over and over and over again in terms of their overall output. The only thing that gives me that kind of slight sense of hope with this, and why you got to think it's a little bit more, you got to think positively and just be patient. Just stick with me or just be patient. Mike Schilt's second half of the season was incredible last year. His guys are bought in. The process is there. And you know A.J. Preller's got to move up his sleeve. He always does. So from that perspective, yes, be frustrated, but at the same time, take a deep breath and realize help is probably coming on the way. You got to make it through this next stretch here, but you got to be able to start throwing up some wins. Like losing 2 out of 3 in Arizona, I agree. That puts more pressure on you to do better in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. You're off to an 0-1 start. If you're playing a 7-game series, you're down 3-1 right now. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We'll get back to your phone calls, and we'll talk more about this Devers trade when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:36 on a Tuesday. Tough loss for the Padres last night. Lost 6-3 to Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll be trying to get game 2 tonight, as it will be Randy Vasquez for the San Diego Padres going against, to be announced. Where have we heard this one before? Padres actually did well against TBA last week. Maybe they could do that again. Dodgers took 2 of 3 from the Padres last week in San Diego and are off to a 1-0 start here in this 4-game series. Padres will try to bounce back tonight at 7:10. Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt at 6:10. We'll be giving away tickets to the Padres Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. Then we'll be at 1 o'clock. We'll get to our sports thread in just a little bit as well. I want to get back to the phones before we talk about Rafael Devers' move to San Francisco. Kind of been teasing that for a while. Got to get to it eventually. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Kevin in Chula Vista. Missed you the first time. What's going on, man?
Welcome back, Braden. And forgive some of us for having PTSD from 2023. But it's beginning to creep in, and I think, for good reason. We see a team here that is below 500 since whatever date you want to work with, whether it's mid-April, early May. They're 4 to 5 games trending under 500. You look at the schedule coming up, and I think they've got the Rockies in there someplace, but the rest of the schedule, who would you favor the Padres in any of the series coming up? So when people talk about selling, some people are looking at this schedule and saying, based upon this trend of being under 500 and watching the entire 14-3 start sink away, we're starting to see the trend here that the real Padres were not the 14-3 start. That's just because of the injuries, the consistent lack of underperformance on key players, a whole host of things. Now, I would remind people that didn't hear Kevin Acee on his shows yesterday, remind everybody, when it comes to trades, he said specifically, you need to have a lot lesser expectation on what you think is going to happen, because AJ's hands are tied. He's tied because in most cases, he has nothing left to trade. You have to find, I've said so many times, you have to find a trade partner that wants something that you have. And you can't go through this whole thing and say, well, we should get Duran or we should get Luis Roberts. Okay. Does those teams that have those players, do they want to do business with the Padres? That's the first question. I'm not hearing anybody out there, do you, that specifically is targeting any Padre players. Now, I know it's a big secret and it's a big clandestine effort on all of this stuff, but when you look at the Padres, they're 26th in ranking thereabouts on their farm system. Teams know this, and they know that what AJ is offering is basically a bag of rocks. And so you're going to trade a bag of rocks, and you're going to get what? Another bag of rocks, most likely. And that's why Kevin said what he said yesterday, and it should be listened to. We are paying the price for what the Padres did a few years ago when they started emptying out the farm system. That's who we are, that's what we are, and that's where we're at. Now, the only thing we can do now is wait and see and accept it for what it is. We knew that this was a possibility. So there should be no complaining from the peanut gallery about the Padres not having players. Well, you know what? We got rid of a lot of them. And there's an all-star team. If you put them all together, Braden, look it all up, and I know you know this. In AJ's tenure here, he's traded away basically an all-star team, which could be. So the point is, we're reaping what we sow here. And there's no easy answers out of this because there are so many freaking holes in this team. And we knew that coming into the season. And now it's proving itself out because we said what? They have to stay healthy. The core six has to perform. They ain't healthy. The core six ain't performing. And you got two pitchers that are on some type of witness protection program that for some reason the Padres have such little regard for their fans that we can't get a straight answer on what is really going on with these two pitchers. That's all I got for today.
All right, Kevin. A lot to digest there. There's a couple of things. You know, you can say what you want about like the players that were sent away that have turned into all-stars, you know, an all-star team, if you will. The problem with that is there's no guarantee that those guys would have been all-stars here in San Diego. There's no guarantee that you would have kept some of those guys. And I think every year at the deadline, you have to go big if you want to win. And sometimes you win and sometimes you don't in terms of the deadline. And when you give out the big contracts to Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and some of these players that are stars, when you sign them, in order for those contracts to pay off, you have to win at the young part of their contract. You're not going to win at the end part of their contract. You have to win during the beginning part of their contract. And the beginning part of their contract, again, is right now. So this is the time that you make the moves. Here's what I got to say on the prospect thing. Just because the Padres farm system is ranked whatever by media people doesn't mean the players that they have are not valued by other organizations. Other organizations value, and every organization values players incredibly different. They all value players differently. There are players in other organizations that aren't on the radar in terms of the top 30 in their list that are rated higher to the Padres than they are to the Orioles, and vice versa. There might be some players that the Padres value higher than what MLB.com ranks them at. I mean, that's more just for fun for the fans in general. So there are some pieces out there, and you've seen it because the Padres have made those moves. I mean, think about all the players the Dodgers have sent away to acquire players. A lot of them end up not even panning out to anything. Does anybody remember anybody that has been sent to the Boston Red Sox for Mookie Betts? Anybody remember those guys? No. Not a lot of them panned out. I think you say the same thing about a lot of players. I mean, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, look at who the Red Sox have gotten back for their two big players. In Devers, and again, a lot of that's new. I mean, who knows how the minor league players will be in the trade that sent Devers to San Francisco. They got two pitchers with above 4 ERAs. And then you look at the Mookie Betts deal. I mean, the Mookie Betts deal is awful. Yet the Red Sox thought those players were good enough to send away Mookie Betts, even though they knew they weren't going to re-sign him. I'm trying to find those exact players, but it's
Alex Verdugo, Jeter Downs, and
Connor Wong. How'd that work out for Boston? Now, you could say the same thing. Well, if we would have kept James Wood and CJ Abrams, do those players help you in the 2022 playoffs? They didn't. They weren't going to. Are those players significantly helping you now? They might. But you don't know what you don't know. Again, that's why every time we look at this, you have to look at it from the standpoint of making decisions right now. So, everybody that wants to sell everybody at the deadline, think about it right now of what those potential future consequences are as well. Just because you made what some people say is a bad decision in the past does not mean you should make a different bad decision to try to rewrite the wrong in the past. You're just going to be making wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision. Some people in the YouTube chat saying there's 6 players away, 7 players away. We don't have anybody in the offense. I mean, start comparing the Padres to other teams in Major League Baseball. At the beginning of the season, people thought this team was going to win a World Series. I mean, it's just you can't blow with the wind. It's called being a windsock. And I'm not overly optimistic about the team. I'm not underly optimistic about the team. I'm somewhere in the middle. Kevin asks, who are the Padres' opponents in the next couple of games that they're favored against? Who would they be? Well, they got Kansas City this weekend. Kansas City's good. They're not great. They're 4 games under 500. The Padres are 7 games above 500. Are we just we're just gonna talk about what the recent has, I guess. Padres are better than Kansas City. That's who they have this weekend. And then they got Washington. Washington's a team that everybody just wishes that the Padres were because they sent away some of their good players. Washington is 12 games under 500. They're 15 games out of first place behind the Mets. They're 12 games under 500. They're 1-9 in the last 10. Are you telling me the Padres that are 7 games above 500 cannot beat the Washington Nationals? And maybe they can't. Maybe we're about to see. Maybe we're about to see the writing on the wall. You can sell everybody. Nats are on an 8-game losing streak. So after these 3 games left against the Dodgers, you got Kansas City, got Washington. You're better than both of those teams. Then you got Cincinnati. Cincinnati's 2 games above 500. Let me ask the people out there. Would you rather have the Cincinnati Reds roster right now or the San Diego Padres roster? Which roster would you rather have? I'd rather have the Padres roster. It's not even a question. Padres would be favored against the Reds. Now, Phillies coming in after that, probably not favored in that series. Padres right now are not better than the Phillies. After that, they got the Texas Rangers. Rangers are a borderline selling team at 500. They're a 500 ball club. Maybe you're the same as Texas. Padres are better than Arizona in the standings. Then they got Philly again. And then start the second half of the year, Washington and Miami. St. Louis is better. Padres are still better than them in the standings. Sometimes I feel like, collectively, we as Padres fans have been through so much that it's just the negative creeps into our minds so fast. And I'm not being unrealistic. I just think about it for a second. Everybody wants to talk about 2023. The problems the Padres had in 2023 are not the same problems that they have in 2025. It's totally different. There's not a bunch of super teams out there. And it's not like, and you've already seen it throughout the season, the Padres are competitive with all the teams that are playoff caliber teams. They're playoff caliber. And aside from last night, the Padres have they haven't been dominated by the Dodgers. Again, 2023 is different than 2025. People had the same thing last year with 2024. Thinking about 2023, you can't think about every season that was the negative season going like, this thing's all going to come crumbling down. It's not the mindset to have. You got to make the playoffs, and when you make the playoffs in Major League Baseball, everybody's got a shot because it's baseball. I mean, we've seen that happen for years now with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Last year, they finally got over the hump. They had 2 starting pitchers to do it. But every year from that point on, they have been the best. They have been the best team in baseball and have failed to do anything with it because that's how weird baseball is. So that's why I continue to say, like, see where this goes. See where this goes. Enjoy the ride. You can't make knee-jerk reactions on a lot of these things. Let's get to today's sports thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, here's Frank Marchese.
Thought I'd make some people feel better today with the exaggerated mic swing, but here we go.
Number 1.
History was made yesterday in Omaha, Nebraska, as Arkansas beat Murray State 3-0. The history was made by Razorbacks pitcher Gage Wood, who became just the 3rd pitcher in College World Series history to throw a no-hitter. Woods' final line, 9 innings, no hits, no runs, 19 strikeouts on 83 strikes on 119 pitches. The only thing that kept him from throwing a perfect game was a hit batsman in the 8th inning. Wood is the first pitcher to throw a no-hitter in the College World Series since 1960 and was already projected to be a first-round pick next month. Does this further his draft stock as we watch the MLB Combine right now?
Throwing a no-hitter in the College World Series? I don't know if it
doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt, but how many pitches did he throw?
119.
It's not the worst. You just don't want to overdo it. Sometimes these guys overdo it in the playoffs, in the College World Series, to the College World Series, or in that particular sense, and they don't blow their arms out, but they're just never the same. It probably helps a little bit, but I think it's more of a personal accomplishment than anything else. I don't think scouts are like, well, he threw a no-hitter. Let's get him on our radar now. But it probably helps him a little bit.
I would say so. I mean, especially he was already projected to be a first rounder. So
Number 2.
Hockey rosters for the 2026 Olympics in Milan aren't due until January, but the U.S. team is announcing names early. General manager and former player Bill Guerin announced yesterday that both Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, and Charlie McAvoy will make the trip to Italy next year. The players named were more or less the obvious choices to go to the Olympics, but so far a solid base for the U.S. to build on.
Yeah, I like it. We'll see if we can. We got to get back after the losing the Frozen face-off.
Yeah, that was.
It's got a little bit of a bounce back.
No goalies on that list too, but they've got about 6 or 7 that they could choose from, which would be great options.
Number 3.
Bring back Freebird.
There you go. This was more news for yesterday, but with you not here, we'll bump it to today. As former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, Ipe Mizuhara reported to the Federal Corrections Institution Allenwood Low yesterday. Yesterday was the last day allowed in his grace period before turning himself in to begin his 57-month sentence for stealing $17 million from Shohei Ohtani to gamble. Do you believe in the conspiracy that Ohtani only started yesterday to shield Ipe from the spotlight of going to prison?
No.
He went off on that yesterday.
There's no way, dude. What? It's the only reason why he pitched. I would buy the conspiracy that Dave Roberts has the red ass for the Padres and has to always try to stick it to the Padres. Like, oh, look, we're going to throw Shohei. I don't think it was to distract everybody from the Ipe thing. Are people still paying attention to Ipe at all?
Well, I mean, for those of you, for people who think that Ipe's taking the fall for Shohei, that's part of it.
Oh my God.
A lot to have Shohei go out there to take the shine off of him.
God, no. I'm not.
Number 4.
I'm going to shut that down right now.
This will be the last one we have time for. New stadium news as Mike Kehoe, the governor of Missouri, has signed a legislative package to designate hundreds of millions of dollars in financial aid for new stadiums for the Chiefs and the Royals. The two teams' lease with Jackson County runs out in 2031, and both teams, more so the Chiefs, have expressed desire to relocate. Does this help? Significantly help?
To keep them in Kansas City, Missouri? Yes. Probably helps a little bit. We'll see. Stadium issues are always a problem. Always a problem. Frank, good job on the sports thread. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this Devers thing. Plus, JJ Spawn won the U.S. Open over the weekend. We'll talk about that as well in the next hour on the Braden Surprenant Show.
Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
Lunchtime hour on the Fan on the Braden Surprenant Show, brought to you by Craft Taco. I'm gonna get Frank up to Craft Taco. You'd probably have to go to the History Museum one's probably closer for you, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A lot closer.
This noon lunch hour is brought to you by the Craft Taco. Both flavors at 2 locations, Serrano Valley and inside Balboa Park's Natural History Museum. So good. The Craft Taco. If you haven't checked it out already, go get it for lunch. It's lunchtime right now. Go get a taco. It is Tuesday. After all, go get yourself a taco on a Tuesday. A lot of people bumming after last night. Selling at the deadline. I can't. I don't want to address it because it's so like nonsensical that I should just be like, what are they talking about? Why are we talking about this? And then move on. But now I have to talk about it. It's just like, again, I said this during a break to Frank. I said, Francis, we warned everybody. Did we not? We warned everybody.
Oh, we definitely did.
We sent the warnings out. We said, I was like, at the beginning of the year, I was like, hey, look. Warning. I even said it, if I'm not mistaken, after the Padres jumped out to a 14-3 start to the season. Do you remember this, Frank?
They're going to come crashing back to earth.
I said they're going to have spurts where they lose like 5, 6, 7 in a row, which they already have. They're going to have bad stretches. It's part of the game. They had a really good stretch to start the season. They're having a very poor stretch right now. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to keep doing it because people like to change the dates to make it fit their narrative on the data. We just heard that. The Padres are 7 games above 500. They started the season 7-0. They have played now, based on math, 500 baseball since the first 7 games of the year. There's 162 of these games. They're going to go up, and they're going to go down. They're going to go up, and they're going to go down. It's going to be like this all year. Baseball teams are trying to survive the season, go on a couple of good winning streaks, and get themselves to the playoffs. They don't care where they're at in the playoffs. They need to get there. In fact, the 6th seed has done really well in the postseason. You're just trying to get there. Now, for all the people that want to sell at the trade deadline, which I think would be insane. That would be insane. You have right now a team that's selling out Petco Park. 7 games above 500. Still well within the division, even though they've taken a little bit of hit right now. Again, it's going to fluctuate throughout the entire season. You're going to see teams go up. You're going to see teams go down. You want to sell at the deadline. Okay, let's say we do this. Are we going to do one of these hours again?
No, let's not do another
I'm not saying to do it.
Let's not do another sarcasm hour.
I did the Xander Bogaerts bit last week. He's starting to finally hit a little bit, which is nice. But let's say you do sell. Okay. So you sell King, and you sell Cease, and you sell Suarez, and you sell Arise. Just say you sell all these guys. They're all rentals, so you're not going to get a top prospect on anybody. Okay, maybe a team gets desperate and they'll give you a top prospect for like Cease or King. So you sell. Okay. So now you're thinking like next year, even if you just go next year, you're thinking next year, a year older Manny Machado and a year older Xander Bogaerts is going to be better than this year. And another year of potential, like Yu Darvish, like, is he going to help next year? It's like you're really cost cutting because they're all rentals. The only one that's going to improve is like Fernando and Jackson Merrill. But again, everybody else is getting a year older. You're still not well within the means to have Salas and DeVries come up. So punting on the season really doesn't like help you too much. Maybe you bolster the farm system a little bit. You can't, and I said in the open, I say in the open every single day. We hear it twice a day. You can't punt on a Manny Machado prime year. If Manny is playing well, which he is, Fernando's starting to turn things around again, which he's playing well. He started off the season great. Got to get Merrill back in the lineup. With those guys playing well and the team being above 500, you can't sell at the deadline. You just can't do it. Frank and I said, unless they are like 10 games out of a wild card spot, 10 games out of the third spot, that is the only time you should sell at the trade deadline. For this current Padres team, with this core six that they have. So you can't sell. Which means you'd have to probably buy at the deadline. Because you can't just sit still either. I mean, that's just ludicrous. You know what the holes are. And maybe you should be getting King back at a certain time, even though there's no timetable. And you should be getting Yu Darvish at some point. But you can't sell at the deadline and think it's going to go great in the next couple of years. And here's my problem with selling ever. If you're a team that's competitive, the only teams that should be selling are teams that are not going to be competitive for the next 5 years. Next 5, next 4, next 3. Like those are the teams that should be selling. And those teams that are in those kind of realms. And you could start pulling them up in the standings. The Colorado Rockies, right? Like the Rockies should be sending everything away that's not tied down to the ship. White Sox should be doing that too. The Angels probably should be doing that. The A's should be doing that. I mean, start looking at some of these teams that are near the bottom of the standings. The American, Marlins, Nationals. All of those teams understand that they're not going to be competitive in the next couple of years. Now, if the Nationals think they're going to be competitive in like 2-3 years, let's just say like 2 years. Anybody that's not under contract or that can't help you within the next 3 years needs to be shipped off. Those are teams that sell. Unless you want to revamp your entire roster. If you have guys under control for a long period of time, it's a little bit different. You have to understand your windows of success. The Padres right now are in their window of success. And every year that you decide not to go after it is just a wasted year. You're just wasting the talent of some of these guys. You know what you're doing? You're pulling an Angels. And just wasting Mike Trout. Wasting Manny Machado. And making that contract make sense. Now is the time to win with those contracts. Not in the future. Panic moves. windsock moves. The reality is not the rotation is toast. That is an emotional decision-making based on some of the things that have just recently happened. The rotation is not toast. Could it be? It's possible. But it's not toast. If, and we're playing a lot of what-if games right now because it's what everybody wants to talk about. If King is done for the year and Darvish is done for the year and you have Kolek and Vasquez and whatever, like the best part of your rotation, yeah, you're not going to have too much success. But I still think it's more beneficial to the Padres to try to piece something together and compete than just quit. And that's one of my problems with baseball is just half the teams quitting. And then seeing these all-star teams for the playoffs. Now we're just going to quit. I'd rather watch the team be competitive year in and year out. Because of those players, there's not a lot of them that are going to add too much potential depth. I've said it before. The minor leagues are designed for like two guys in your organization to get work. Everybody else is just kind of there. You're not in rebuild mode right now. You can't rebuild with Bogarts on the roster and Machado on the roster and Fernando on the roster on long-term deals. These are not contracts in which you have rebuilding years. If you want to rebuild, then you got to start eating payroll and you got to get rid of all those guys and just keep like two. There's not like a 1-year rebuild for the Padres right now. So it doesn't make sense. Look, I'm entertaining the emotional decisions here from fans. But when you start looking at it, and let's realistically look at those potential moves that you would make, you have to understand there's consequences to your actions. As much as Kevin and Chula Vista upset people with the consequences of your actions, there's consequences to doing this too. You have to improve the starting rotation for the Padres. I would say so with kind of injuries that you have in place. But the difference there is the Padres bullpen is built to kind of overcome some of the starting pitching woes, especially with injuries. But just think about there are consequences to potentially selling right now. Let's say you sell this year, right? And then next year Manny gets hurt or somebody important gets hurt and he's gone for the year. Then you got sell again the next year? Any year you have your star players healthy, which the Padres relatively do. I mean, Merrill's going to be back. The rotation's not 100% healthy, but guess what? None of them are lost for the year yet. It's not like the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks are still trying to compete. And they have players on expiring contracts. I'm just saying, do not make panic moves. And I just think people just want they just want the doom. They want the Padres to be bad because it is always what they've known. I just don't understand that logic. And I'm just talking about reality here. Go add on the margins. Go try to make your team better. I would rather have my team try to compete every single year than punt, go through 5 years of a rebuild, go after it 1 year, punt, go 5 years of a rebuild. I mean, I just don't want to see that. There's not a lot of options out there in the starting pitching world, which is not a lot of pieces out there that could be starting pitchers. Look at the market. There's not a lot of aces on the market. A lot of the teams that are bad don't have really good players or really good pitchers. The thing with baseball is you got to make the postseason, and when things happen in the postseason, there's not a lot of teams that are just loaded with talent that you should be afraid of. It's still June 17th. They're 7 games above 500. I'm just saying, be a little patient. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, we'll take more of your phone calls. We'll talk more about this topic and talk about the ramifications of the Rafael Devers trade. We've been teasing that too long. We'll finally address it when we come back in the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:20. You're going to need a contestant coming up for our midday sports standoff, as we will have a contestant try to take me down in some sports trivia. If you do so, you'll qualify for a chance to win our grand prize. Celebrate summer with a spa and pool getaway at Resorts World Las Vegas, some of the largest elevated pool complex on the Strip. You'll receive a 2-night stay at Resorts World Las Vegas. Dine poolside at one of the 5 unique pool experiences and experience the ultimate in relaxation and wellness at Awana Spa, one of our largest co-ed spa facilities in Las Vegas. To book your summer stay, please visit rwlasvegas.com. In the 1 o'clock hour, we'll be giving away tickets to the Padres game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. But call in right now, or actually when we go to break, to try to get in line to win a trip to Vegas by taking me down in some sports trivia. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Again, a lot of people are like, well, what do you do if you're not going to sell? Again, I'd buy at the deadline. I said this last year. I said the same thing last year. Last year was even worse. Last year, people wanted to sell. Could you imagine the Padres sold last year? You wouldn't have got the run that they had. Could have been a little bit deeper in the postseason. Would you rather just punt? No. Padres are in a better spot right now than they were a year ago, and they bought last year. And I think they should be doing it again. Padres need a bat, and they probably could use another arm. Now, starting pitching is not plentiful. In fact, most teams are hurting in the starting pitching category. A lot of teams are hurting in the starting pitching category. There's not really a lights out rotation in Major League Baseball. I'm sure you can go find me a rotation. But the Padres pitching staff overall has been very good all year long. Sometimes they'll go through a little bit of a downturn. We've seen that. Padres are the most shutouts this year. That's being started with guys like Steven Kolick and Randy Vasquez. They're suitable guys to get you to the playoffs. When you get to the playoffs, you need a pitcher. Sorry, when you get to the playoffs, you only need like 3 starting pitchers. In fact, the Dodgers did it with 2 last year and an elite bullpen. Padres got a really good bullpen. Padres have bullpen pieces in the minor leagues. That's probably the only benefit they do have in the minor leagues right now. It's bullpen pitching. So you can win with that. Again, you're trying to just get in. That's the whole job. And I think that a lot of people's expectations might have changed because of the 7-0 start that they had and the 14-3 start that they had to the season. Just got to get in the playoffs. You need a bat. It could be a left fielder or a DH. We talked about that for the last 2 weeks. A Cedric Mullins, a Ryan O'Hearn. They're both lefties, though. Do you need a right-handed hitter? Maybe go find a right-handed hitter. Ramon Laureano. There is affordable bats that just 1, maybe 2, could drastically change things in your lineup. From the pitching side, you can't start making decisions without understanding where Michael King is. It kind of puts you behind the 8 ball. If Michael King is out for the year, then yeah, you got to go try to find more starting pitching. But he's not. They don't know yet. So you have to be patient on that with some of the injuries. The rotation needs to get healthy. The rotation still can get healthy. It's not like other rotations that have players out for the year. So you might be able to get an arm here or there. But there's not ace arms available on the market. And that's what I said. People don't listen to what I have to say. They just don't listen. They think about what they want to think about, and they don't listen to what I'm saying. There's not an ace out there. But you can go get pitchers that can eat innings for you. You could go get Nick Martinez back. I don't mind Nick Martinez. Probably not going to cost you a lot. By the time you get him, it'll probably cost you around $10 million. Maybe a little bit less than that. He's a rental that the Reds have. The Reds are probably not competing for a playoff spot by the time the trade deadline rolls around. You can get him. Cardinals were thinking about trading away Miles Michaelis if they potentially go through a little bit of a downturn. Again, he's not a sexy pickup, but he's another arm. Zach Eflin might be available. He is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He might be available. These are not names that you just go like, oh my God, we got this guy. But I tell you what, in each innings, it helps solidify your rotation. You only need 3 starters in the postseason. You're just not getting Scooble at the deadline, as Go Aztec said on Twitch. 100%. I think the same thing is for a bat. You're not getting a Juan Soto deal. You're adding on the fringes. Okay, you're probably adding a rental here or there. But I'm telling you right now, the team is not like 6, 7 players away. Just adding a couple players. Even if you just add one bat and one pitcher, it drastically changes how you construct the lineup and moves guys into more of their roles that they're designed to do. It's not a huge fix that the Padres team needs. Again, they're 7 games above 500. You can doom and gloom all you want and say sell at the deadline, which I think is utterly ridiculous. But there's a process to this. Seeing the Rafael Devers trade kind of threw things off a little bit, where now Padres fans are like, oh my God, the Giants made a trade. They just made a huge trade. Padres got to make a trade. Padres got to make a trade. No, they don't. Relax. Here are the reasons why I'm not freaking out about the Padres. 1, they're 7 games over 500. Okay? Now, if that's the case at the end of the week, might be different. Maybe they get their ass swept in LA. I don't know. We'll find out the next 3 days. But they're currently 7 games above 500. They are now 4 games out of first place, which seems like a lot, but it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things. Again, that can change to 8 games by the end of the week. But as of right now, it's not. And I'm thinking about the present. I'm not going to think about all the what ifs in the future that could potentially go wrong. So, the Padres are 7 games above 500. They're 4 games out of the division, and they're the final wild card spot in the National League on June 17th. That is one of the reasons why I'm not freaking out. Because last year at this time, as Frank Marchese pointed out, and quickly got the numbers for us that we needed, the Padres were 1 game above 500 last year at this time. In 2023, they were 1 game under 500 last year at this time in 2023. 2022, they're off to a great start. Manny Machado was hitting the ball really well. They were 44-27. Okay? You're 5 games off of that pace. The other reason why I'm not concerned, okay, is, now I'm concerned about little things here and there, but overall, the grand scheme of the Padres, I don't think you're in a position where you're thinking about selling at the deadline. Here's another reason. Maybe I could talk you off the ledge for everybody that's freaking out over the last 5 games, the last week and a half of Padres baseball. Mike Shilt's teams have always done well in the second half, and last year, I thought he turned what was a very frustrating team to watch into a team that a lot of people in town thought could compete for a World Series. Got to let it play out. Again, you never know where these things are going to go. The last thing I'll say about AJ Preller, and this is more of a sense of, I don't know what he's going to do because nobody knows what he's going to do, because he makes things happen that you wouldn't even contemplate. Like, we could talk about Cedric Mullins. We could talk about Ryan O'Hearn. We could talk about Jaron Duran. We could talk about any left fielder or designated hitter that we've talked about the last 2 weeks, and AJ Preller potentially bringing that player in. And then, you know what AJ does? He goes and finds somebody that we haven't talked about for the last 2.5 weeks or months on a time, and finds some player that you didn't even know was available and acquires him at the deadline. He's done it so far. There are times it doesn't work out. There are times it does work out. So there might be a pitcher out there that might be available that you didn't know? Up until Sunday, did anybody think Rafael Devers was available? Anybody? Most teams in baseball, when that trade happened, said, we knew he was available. The Red Sox weren't actively calling teams about Rafael Devers, but as some executives said, when talking to the Red Sox, they knew that if you brought up Rafael Devers' name, they weren't opposed to trading him. Did anybody out there know that that was the case? No. We don't really know. You get some of the stuff. You get some of the rumors out there. A lot of it's to throw off the scent. Nobody had any idea that Rafael Devers was available until the trade happened, and everybody freaked out going, I can't believe this just happened. I was like, what? They must have been tired of his crap, and they were. So, AJ Preller has done a lot of additions at the deadline. Some work, some don't. They know where the problems are at. They're making phone calls, and Preller doesn't pull the trigger unless it's a deal that he likes. So just because Rafael Devers was a big move before the trade deadline and way before the trade deadline doesn't mean Padres got to emotionally get going. I'm trying to convince people not to think with their emotions. Just let it happen naturally. Think about it from a realistic standpoint. Realistically, starting rotation. Michael King is not out for the season. We don't know. And until you know, you can't make decisions about roster until you figure out what's going on with Michael King. Same thing with you, Darvish. If they both come back, all of a sudden your rotation is drastically different than it is right now in this very moment. You got to look at the forest instead of just focusing on the tree in front of you. Even with Dylan Cease not pitching to an ace level, and I think he's slowly turning it around. Last night was rough. He feels confident in what he's doing right now. And Mike Schilt was not upset with his outing yesterday. But if you have Dylan Cease, again, good pitcher, not an ace, good, and you have Michael King and Yu Darvish, it's a solid rotation with Pivetta. I all forgot about Pivetta. That's a good enough rotation to win in the postseason. There's a lot of ifs in there, but until they're ruled out officially, the Padres can't just be like, "Oh, they're gone. Let's go trade everything away for other pieces." You can't think like that. You can't think like that. You have to. They go through every single scenario and they're working it out, and they have plans in place for King to not be on the team for the remainder of the year, and for Yu Darvish not to make it through the year. They have the plans in place. But if I don't know if Michael King is going to be back or not, can I execute plan whatever it is if Michael King is not healthy? That plan, like the break glass in case Michael King is not healthy for the end of the year. Can I execute that plan if I don't know if Michael King is healthy for the season or not? No, I cannot. So until some of those things are found out, you can't just start making rash decisions because you're emotionally upset you lost to the Dodgers last night. I mean, that's literally what I've been saying for the last 2 months. Frank and I warned everybody. Don't view things for baseball like football. It's just such a unique sport, man. It's just such a unique sport. The best teams in the world go on 5, 6, 7 game losing streaks out of nowhere. So, if the Padres know more than what they're telling you, which they probably do, they have plans in place for XYZ to happen. And they will execute those particular plans. But I don't think those plans result in selling this season. It doesn't make any sense. You don't sign Manny Machado to a long-term contract and Xander Bogaerts to a long-term contract and Fernando Tatis Jr. to a long-term contract and Jackson Merrill to a long-term contract if you are going to sell or punt during their prime years, which is right now. And when you looked at the beginning of the season, the expectations weren't very high. My expectations weren't very high. I thought the Padres would be like a game out of a wild card spot with everything that they had in place. I thought they'd be like a game out of the wild card spot. Where's my season predictions? I have it pulled up here somewhere. I had like 84 wins or something like that. 85 wins. Didn't make any. I mean, they were taking a chance on a lot of players. And you know what? They got off to a 14-3 start. I think a lot of people agreed at the same time going into the season. All of a sudden it changed because they went off to a 14-3 start. You knew about XYZ. I still think they could compete for a playoff spot. And you got to look at things from another perspective. What is the competition like? What is the competition like? I mean, I go back to the original plan. We'll talk about it when we come back. I mean, here's another perspective to look at when you're talking about the Padres. I'm not telling you everything's great. I'm not selling sunshine and rainbows. I'm just talking realistically here of what is going on and what I'm seeing. Again, I'm going to tell you how it is. I don't have any agendas. I don't care. If they were awful, I'd be telling you they're awful. They're not awful. I have seen way worse Padre teams in the past that you couldn't even believe in. Here's another perspective when we come back. I also need somebody to try to take me on in trivia. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We'll talk about that. We'll play the Midday Sports Standoff as we continue in the lunchtime hour, sponsored by Kraft Taco, on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego Summer Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Don't have too much time before we got to get to the game, but I know some people want to weigh in on the San Diego Padres. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Again, I talked about the perspective thing. And again, with the perspective of just like everybody freaking out about the Padres. I mean, you have to look at everybody else as well. I mean, like open up and just see what every other team is dealing with. I mean, there's a lot of flaws in a lot of different teams. I mean, you start looking at it. I say this at the beginning of the year every season about the MLB standings. I mean, think about it from the perspective of how many teams make the playoffs, who's going to win the division, and what spots are left, and then who you're competing with. Who are you actually competing with? Again, you got to make the playoffs. Winning in the postseason in baseball is kind of a crapshoot. We've heard that from multiple guests on multiple shows on this station. But look at the National League. One of the Mets or the Phillies is going to win the division. The other one's going to be in the playoffs. Let's just talk about division winners. So let's say the Mets win the division. They're in the playoffs. Cubs are going to win the National League Central. And the Dodgers are probably going to win the National League West. Those are 3 teams off the board. You have 3 spots left. One of them's going to the Phillies. One of them, and then you got 2 left, right? So I don't think the Brewers are a foregone conclusion to win and make the postseason. I don't think the Giants are. We've seen the Diamondbacks and the pitching that they have, even though the Padres lost 2 out of 3 over the weekend. Just because they lost 2 out of 3 this weekend doesn't mean they're worse than the Diamondbacks on the season. You still got to play all the games. But look at who's making the playoffs. I mean, the Braves are 8 games under 500. You already won the season series against them. The Nationals are 12 games under, and the Marlins are the Marlins. You're not competing with any of those teams for a playoff spot. You look at the Central. You got the Pirates, who can't even win when Paul Skeens is on the mound. And then you got Cincinnati and St. Louis and Milwaukee. Padres did well against Milwaukee. Took 2 out of 3. Probably could have swept that weekend. They haven't played St. Louis yet, but St. Louis has been a team that hasn't really been competing too much. They've lost 7 of the last 10. The Reds have caught fire a little bit, but the Reds, their highest paid player on their team is Nick Martinez. You're competing with the Brewers, the Cardinals, and the Reds. You're competing with the Giants and the Diamondbacks. You're better than most of those teams without having to make any additions at the trade deadline. Are they going to go out there and go find all these pieces? I mean, think about it. Why would you sell when you're competing against the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Reds, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks? Out of all those teams, 2 of them are still going to make the playoffs. Perspective. Let's get to John in Carlsbad. John, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Braden, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Well, I mean, with all the Padre talk going on right now, I think we as San Diegans are spoiled, and they want us, in my opinion, try to sit there and try to compete with the Dodgers when the reality is we're closing that gap. But from a financial perspective, we can't go out and pull the trigger on all these free agents that the Dodgers can. So you talk about, look at who we're playing against. Yes, within our own division, we have a lot going on with the Dodgers and this recent acquisition with the Giants. But at the same time, rewind the clock 5 years ago and have some perspective of where this club was. They were excited to make the extended playoffs in 2020. It was a big deal because of the series that we won there. I understand the expectations are high, and I'm not settling by any means, but at the same time, it's a long season. I think we just need to sit back and relax and watch the show.
I agree, John. I agree. I appreciate the phone call, man. I've been saying that too. I mean, you got to understand who you're competing with. You're not trying to outdo the Dodgers at the end of the year. You're trying to get them in a best-of-5 series or in a best-of-7 series. That was the goal at the beginning of the season. That shouldn't have changed because you won your first 7 games of the year. Right now, you're still competing for a division. And who knows, you might still be able to compete for a division title at the end of the year. But the reality of the situation is you're trying to make the playoffs. You're competing with the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Reds, and I don't think all 3 of those teams are going to be there by trade deadline. And you're competing with the Giants and the Diamondbacks. I mean, the Braves are 8 games below 500 right now. Phillies, Mets, Dodgers, Cubs, probably in the playoffs. Last 2 spots, Brewers, Cardinals, Reds, Giants, Padres, Diamondbacks. You got to finish in the top 2 of that grouping. If you think those teams are drastically better than the Padres and they got no shot, then go ahead and sell at the deadline. But I don't think that's the case. I don't even know why I'm entertaining this. Let's very quickly get to today's Midday Sports Standoff.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
It's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
All right, Frank, who we got playing today?
We have Gino today from in downtown right now. Gino, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. All right, so today's topic for the Midday Sports Standoff, there are currently 9 players in Major League Baseball that are hitting over 310 with at least 200 plate appearances. And your job is to, with Braden, try to name them all. Ready? Name the 9 players. Well, it's going to go back and forth, but there are 9 players in Major League Baseball right now hitting over 310 with at least 200 plate appearances. All right, so that's what you guys are going to be going for.
All right.
Gino, you have the first guess.
I'll go with the easy one with Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge, of course. Braden.
I'll go with the San Diego Padre, Manny Machado.
Manny Machado on the list. Gino.
I'll go with Freddie Freeman, I believe.
Freddie Freeman on the list.
What about Cleveland Guardians, Jose Ramirez?
Jose Ramirez on the list. Gino.
Let's go with, I believe, the shortstop for the Astros, Jeremy Pena.
Jeremy Pena is on the list. Braden.
I don't know if he has enough. Oh, he's probably close. Is Paul Goldschmidt hit 310?
309 for Goldschmidt. Gino.
Damn it. Sorry.
Yeah,
it is not Paul Goldschmidt. Another is Will Smith hitting? I know he's hitting like 400 with runners in scoring position, but is he hitting over 310?
Will Smith is over 310, but he only has 188 plate appearances this year.
I can't believe that. Only 188 plate appearances?
Yep. Braden.
Who's that? Sacramento A. Oh, wait, sorry. Athletic. Shortstop. He's on a tear. Jacob Wilson? Jacob Wilson
currently has the second highest batting average in baseball right now. So you guys are tied 3-3.
What is Wilson hitting right now?
I think he's around like 340, something like that, I think.
Jeez.
Gino.
I know our friend from down south was having a good season. The catcher for the Blue Jays, Alejandro Kirk.
Yes, Alejandro Kirk is on the list. So you got 4. Braden, there's 2 left.
2 left.
1 in each league.
What about Rays first baseman Jonathan Aranda.
So we are tied with one left to go. Gino.
You get it right, you win.
One from each league. So this is either in the National League. In contention. Oh, what about what's the guy's name from the Cardinals? Billy Donovan?
You know what? I'm going to be kind.
Basketball coach Billy Donovan.
Oh,
play for the Florida Gators.
I know it's Donovan something.
You know what? I'll be kind. I'll give it to you. It's
Brendan Donovan.
Is who it goes for, but I'll be generous there.
Oh,
Brendan Donovan. Billy Donovan. Wow.
So Gino, hold on the line. I'll get your information during the break. But very good. You guys got all 9 of them.
Billy Donovan is a basketball coach. He used to coach for the Florida Gators, right? That's Billy Donovan?
Yes. Or yeah.
American basketball coach.
He was coaching with Oklahoma City. When
he was a Thunder coach for a while. Where's he at now? I don't even know.
I think he's with Chicago.
Oh, he's with the Bulls. Yeah, Billy Donovan. Brendan Donovan was the player that we were looking for. Gave it to him. It's all right. Hey, first winner of the week. We're going to talk more Padres baseball. Get set for game 2 against the Dodgers here in the 1 o'clock hour. Liam in San Diego wanted to weigh in. Liam, stay on hold. We'll get to you when we come back. Braden Surprenant Show rolls on. San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show. In this hour, we'll be giving away tickets to the Padres and Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. We will try to have a trivia question for you on that as we give the we will give the tickets away going into the final break of the 1 o'clock hour. So not this break, but the next break. And you can win 2 tickets to the Padres Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance, as mentioned before, will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. Playing a lot of Padres baseball today, as necessary. Seems to be the recurring theme. Padres lose a couple games. Time to sell. Players at the deadline, not sell the team. Padres win a couple games. Get in line for the parade route. It's been up and down, up and down, up and down. This keeps it entertaining, keeps it fun. I mean, show's blown by today, Frank. Blown by. But let's talk about it again. I want to mention a couple of things. Again, I did not have the sarcastic hour like we did a couple of weeks ago. But I did lay out, I mean, if you wanted to sell, I mean, you just got to think about it from a realistic perspective. I'm not saying that the Padres team is perfect. It's not. They got a lot of problems. So does everybody else. I mean, I think you should watch other games too and just look at some of the other teams that the Padres are competing against. The Padres have problems. I mean, there's other teams that have disastrous problems too. Some of them are not as fixable as the Padres' problems are. You look at what the Padres' issues are. They need a bat. They could probably use 2. But they need a bat in left field, and they need a DH bat, or at least a right-handed bat. Not saying that Sheets isn't getting the job done. Sheets is playing way above, I think, expectations of what Gavin Sheets was expected to be for the San Diego Padres. You were kind of taking a chance on him. He's done phenomenal. But you need a left fielder, and you need a DH bat. We talked about that last week. Some of the teams that might be available for those. I think Atlanta's kind of a wild card too. Like, you don't know if Atlanta's going to punt at the end of the year, and I don't know what type of selling they might do, but that could open up a little bit more things. I think Baltimore's an opportunity to potentially add some pieces. So those are a couple of teams on the fringe. I think Arizona's one of those teams. I just don't think they'll trade with the Padres. So they need a couple of bats. They could probably use another arm. Now, starting pitching is not readily available. You're not going to go get a Tarek Skubal, who's on a contending team anyway. But there's not a lot of high number arms at the deadline like we've seen in years past in terms of starting pitching. You might need to add a bullpen piece, another one. You might need to add a, 4th or 5th starter just to get you to the end of the year. The Marlins have already said, like, they're not going to trade Sandy this year. They're going to probably wait, even though he's trying to improve from coming back from injury. His numbers aren't very good. There's a couple of teams in there that might have some decent starting pitching, but you're not getting an ace-level pitcher at this year's deadline. And maybe they do. Maybe they go pry an ace from somewhere. But I just don't see it happening in this year's deadline. I just don't. But you could go get a Nick Martinez type to help your rotation out. And I think it all depends on like what the status is of a Yu Darvish and a Michael King. And I said that before. We as fans don't know. The Padres probably know a lot more than we do. But the Padres have plans in place for when they find out that Michael King's not making it to the end of the year. I'm not saying he is. But if they doesn't, the Padres have a plan for that. The Padres have a plan for if Yu Darvish can't come back at any point during the season. They have plans in place of what they're going to do to address the areas of need. And they know what the areas of need are. That doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they, with everything that's being played out with the Devers trade and everything, just because they know what the problems are, doesn't mean they can go execute it right now. The market's slow. So there's going to be some time mixed in, right? So like you have to, they have to wait for the right deal. The last thing I will say, and I mentioned it at the end of last segment, and I do want to get to your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, is the understand the perspective of who you're actually competing against. You're trying to get to the postseason. You need to get to the postseason. Because once you get to the postseason in baseball, anything can happen. If you wanted to have a postseason that crowned the best team, you would play best of 72 game series or whatever the heck Sarah said last year or 2 years ago, whatever it is. But you don't have that. You got to win a best of 5 against LA. You could beat the Dodgers in 5 games. You competed with them last year. You did it in 2022. This Dodgers team, even though they're up 3-1 on the Padres in the season series so far, is not a team that is that drastically better than yours, especially not right now. Top of the order is better. I think overall their batting order is better. Their pitching staff is so beat up right now that you can compete with the Los Angeles Dodgers, especially in a 5-game series. Are you winning a 7-game series? Who's to say? But they're a very beatable team. You should have beat them in the first time you played them this year. And then things got out of hand in the Wednesday game of last week. Last night was the first time that they beat you from the all the way through. They were a better team last night. They out-hit you in that 1 inning and put up 6 runs on Dylan Cease. Other than that, you had a 1-run game in extra innings, and you had a close game late that kind of ballooned out of weight late in the game. But that's the best team that you're playing in the National League. We'll see how the Mets are. We'll talk about the Mets when they approach. But again, looking at who you're actually competing with. Mets are going to be in the playoffs. Cubs are going to be in the playoffs. Dodgers are going to be in the playoffs, assuming there's no catastrophic downfall. Despite that, Phillies are 2 games behind the Mets. I think the Phillies are going to make the playoffs anyway. So those are 3 division winners and a wild card, which leaves you with these teams competing for 2 spots. I don't think it's Atlanta. I don't think it's Washington. I don't think it's Miami. Take them off the list. I don't think it's the Pirates. Take them off the list. Take the Rockies off the list. That leaves you with the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Reds, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres. That's 6 teams. You have 6 teams battling for 2 spots. And I'm not convinced the Cardinals and the Reds are teams that are going to be competing by the time the trade deadline rolls around. I'm not convinced of that. Maybe they will be. Padres still get to play the Cardinals and the Reds the full amount of times. And they've already taken 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee in Milwaukee. I know the Giants have traded for Rafael Devers. I don't necessarily think that is the big move that puts them over the top. They got their own problems of where they're going to play him and where they're going to play Wilmer Flores. I mean, they are shoving a square peg in a round hole, potentially. So I don't think that's the case. Again, you're trying to make the playoffs. Most Major League Baseball teams are trying to survive the season and make the playoffs. So from that perspective, as the team is assembled, record-wise, you're already better than a lot of those teams. And head-to-head, I mean, the Padres, they probably should have beat the Diamondbacks 2 out of 3 over the weekend. I'm not going to believe us that the Diamondbacks are better as is. They're not. Can they beat the Padres? Yeah, you can beat anybody in Major League Baseball. There's not one team in Major League Baseball the Padres can't beat. Not one. Arizona Diamondbacks took 2 out of 3 over the weekend. Padres blew a 4-run lead in that game. That was probably their worst loss of the year. You're going to have 5 of those every single year. And tell me they're not better than the Diamondbacks. They are. They're better than the Diamondbacks. They're probably better than the Giants, too. Overall record has showed that in games against the Giants. They're 4-2 against San Francisco this year. I don't care if they have Devers or not. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Liam in San Diego. Liam, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. What do you got for me?
Yeah, so you've kind of been touching on it with, just the perspective of the league and all that. But my attention keeps getting drawn to the Braves as potential trade candidates. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, see if there's anybody in their lineup that jumps out at you, and talking about Preller, pulling rabbits out of a hat every year in terms of, unexpected trades. Just curious to get your thoughts on that.
It's interesting with the Atlanta Braves. I still think, and I appreciate the phone call, Liam, I still think they probably think that they can compete in terms of like players that you might be able to get. I mean, some of them have been good. Some of them have not been very good. But overall, I mean, I could see them potentially parting ways with Marcell Ozuna. I mean, I don't know if that's the power bat you want at the deadline. He is a rental. He'd probably be costing you $8 million on the payroll if you decide to trade for a guy like Marcell Ozuna at the deadline. And that might be the bat that you need in the order for a power bat. He's not going to play left field, but he is a DH for you. But he's up there in age. And I'm sure he's not, I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore. You look at some other players on that roster. I mean, some of them, the Braves might not be willing to trade. Like, do you think they're going to trade Ronald Acuna Jr.? Probably not. I saw a lot of people like hoping that was the case. Like as soon as Rafael Devers got traded, people on social media started sending out pictures of Acuna in a Padres uniform, trying to get everybody excited. Oh, brother, I can do this. That'd be sick. Now, don't get me wrong. That'd be sick. Ronald Acuna Jr. playing left field for the Padres. Be sick. I don't think it's going to happen. Are they going to trade him? I doubt it. I mean, maybe they quit on Jurickson Profar and get Profar back after the suspension. They just gave him a lot of money, though. Like, are they just going to punt on him because of the suspension? You don't know. But overall, they're an interesting case. But again, I don't know what they have available. I just still don't think they are out of it either, despite where they might be. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Brandon in Carlsbad. Brandon, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Big B, you already know what it is, man. Friar Faithful, always fired up, a little frustrated. I feel like we've been talking in circles. Hey, listen, the bottom line, as far as my view is, and take it for what it's worth because I'm a nobody, is that there's nothing out there for us. We have nothing to barter with. We got what we got. We know what we're capable of. When we look at a lot of our losses, we weren't blown out. We can be competitive. It's a streaky game. We all know that. And if you look at this past couple weeks, it's been tough, but we hung in there. Like, we got the grit. We just need, I don't know, they need to smack each other in the face and wake the F up in that locker room or something like that. And I know that's not the answer. And I know we have a lot of holes to fill, but I know that we can be competitive. And like you said, Braden, you kind of stole the wind out of my sails in the sense of, about, 30 minutes ago, you had said that, look at the record this time last year and look at it now. And we're sitting here everybody's, fire sale, so to speak. Look, man, hunker down. We're in the trenches. And you know what? I wouldn't ask for a better team or crew. And you never know what Preller's going to throw at us. But we know we can compete. When our bats wake up, we don't even care about pitching. And we need them to wake up. So a lot of variables there. Feel like I gave the same phone call a couple days ago. Either way, Braden, thanks for taking my call. God bless.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Yeah. He did, because that's what happened last week. The Padres lost to the Dodgers on Wednesday, and then all of a sudden people freaked out. And hey, I just, Frank, I look at the Padres, and maybe it's like, I feel like Padres fans are in this echo chamber sometimes when it comes to being overly pessimistic about the future of Padres baseball because they've been burned so many times. From an outside perspective looking in, I mean, you have the problems with the Mets as well. I feel like everybody needs to take a deep breath right now, Frank.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. But there's going to be a little bit of an exhale here as Kirk Kenney from 13 minutes ago breaking that San Diego State has hired a new head coach. It will be Arizona pitching coach Kevin Vance will be the new head coach for the San Diego State Aztecs baseball team.
How about that? Okay. Kevin Vance is the new Aztecs baseball coach. We'll see what Kevin Vance can put together for San Diego State baseball in college. I'm not overly optimistic. I'm just viewing it from a standpoint of I'm in the middle. It's just going to sound optimistic when you want to think about it negatively. I'm telling you, there's a lot of problems that the Padres have. It's not foolish to say they have problems, but it's not as bad as you think. It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. So you can't like go super up and down the highs and lows like it's an NFL team. That's not the case. 833-288-973, 833-288-973. We'll get back to your phone calls. We'll also be giving away tickets to Padres and Nationals. Not this break, but the next one on a trivia question about the Nats later on in the show, as we'll continue our conversation about the Padres, get you ready for Game 2 of the series against the Dodgers. Coming up on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Braden Surprenant Show rolls on. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Padres get set for Game 2 against the Dodgers tonight. Randy Vasquez on the hill for the Pods, 3-4 with a 3.57 ERA. Dodgers took 2 out of 3 from the Padres last week in San Diego. They have announced Roki Sasaki's been shut down. There's no timetable for his return. Clayton Kershaw and Justin Roblowski are options in a couple of TBA dates coming up. And the Padres TBA date is Ryan Bergert's spot in the rotation coming up later on this week. Padres will try to weather the storm here after losing Game 1. They'll have a chance to potentially win the series. They got to win 3 straight. Can also split the series. Anything at this point would be good than losing 3 out of 4 in LA after what they did over the weekend against Arizona. Talking a lot about today, like trying to talk people off the ledge a little bit when it comes to the Padres. I'm in the middle. It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. Right now, it might seem bad, but it's not as bad as you think. There are some problems, though, for the Padres. Left field is a problem. Catching situation offensively is a problem. Depth in terms of a bench bat coming off the bench late in the game is a problem. Bullpen, not really a problem. Starting pitching could be a problem if you cannot get fully healthy in the second half of the season. They have their issues, just like a lot of other teams in Major League Baseball. And there's not much more that needs to be said aside from, yes, they do have to play for. They do have to play better. Sorry. Yes, they do have to play better. There's a lot of teams like that. So, yes, they do have to play better, but at the same time, there's not much more you can say about that. You also cannot just drastically change your team every single year. I think Padres fans may be spoiled on the sense of like Preller did that a lot where he redid the roster at a deadline, but now with the long-term contracts, you can't do that anymore. You're locked into these guys. And so now it's not a complete cycle change for your team. Only a couple here and there. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Want to join the show today? Let's get out to Chad and Santee. Chad, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Hey, Braden. I was actually calling in hoping to play for the tickets, but I'm down to comment, and you want to throw me back on hold?
All right. Well, we'll put you on hold then. I don't know how many of those are maybe ticket calls then. I guess we'll find out.
They'd all been on hold for a while, and we've said over the last hour that it was going to be this break upcoming that we were going to do it. So
sometimes they try to get in early, I guess.
And that gets you nowhere because it's a certain caller.
That's right. To answer a trivia question. We're going to do a trivia question, though. I got a good one to win those tickets. All right. So 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show. Padres set for Game 2 tonight. Again, Padres need to try to weather the storm today. We'll see what Vasquez has. Vasquez, he's not like a dominant pitcher, but he's a very serviceable number 5 in your rotation. Right now, he's not the 5 because you got other players that need to be the 5, but he's done a pretty good job this year. He's 3-4 with a 3.57 ERA. I said it last week when Randy Vasquez went against the Dodgers. I didn't like the matchup, but he actually did pretty well. And the question last week was, and we'll see what Mike Schilt does tonight, if, in fact, it goes to that point. But Randy Vasquez, remember, was pulled at 70-something pitches, before he faced the Dodgers lineup for a third time against Shohei Ohtani with 2 outs in the inning. They decided to pull him. Bullpen kind of gave it up. And everybody was like, well, why didn't you leave Vasquez in? I thought the situation at hand was necessary. And the question was, well, if Vasquez can never get through the lineup 3 times, you can't extend him to a contract extension. It was part of our roundtable conversation. I don't think that's the case. I think last week that was kind of the situation. Also, the fact that Shohei Ohtani was coming up next, I think is a major factor, especially with Adrian Morejon doing a good job of facing Shohei Ohtani out of the bullpen for the Padres. I'm curious to see how far they let Vasquez go if he continues to pitch to contact like he did for the Padres against the Dodgers last week, if they will let him face the order for a third time. If he's as effective, right? 70 pitches in the fourth inning. Or I think the fifth inning. It was 4 2/3 or whatever it was. If he's that efficient, let's see if Mike Shildt lets him pitch, or if he is going to be only a 2-time through the order guy. It'll be very interesting to see. As mentioned before, Adam Paul put in the chat again, Kevin Vance is the new San Diego State baseball coach. Congratulations to Kevin Vance. Aztecs got their new baseball coach. He comes as the pitching coach from Arizona. Played at Torrey Pines High School. Played collegiately at UConn. So a San Diego guy coming back to San Diego. I think that's great when it comes to local schools in recruiting, especially schools that can't rely on just outspending everybody in NIL money. The schools here and the programs here in San Diego that have San Diego coaches that are born and raised in San Diego, they are really good programs usually at the college level. Nobody knows how to sell San Diego more than San Diegans do in order to recruit San Diego State, USD, UCSD, Point Loma Nazarene, and all that. So good for Kevin Vance. Right now, clearing the lines. If you are the first one to call in and answer the trivia question, you will win 2 tickets to the Padres-Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. First one to call in and answer this trivia question. Since it's against the Nationals, it's going to be a Washington Nationals trivia question. The Washington Nationals moved to Washington from Montreal in 2005. Their first draft pick as the Nationals was in 2005. That player made his MLB debut that season and became one of the team's best players and face of the franchise, playing his entire career with the Nationals. What player was the first ever draft pick by the current Washington Nationals back in 2005, who played his entire career for Washington and became one of the team's best players and faces of the franchise? If you call in and you are the first one to call in and answer that trivia question correctly, you will win tickets to the Padres-Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bobblehead, or Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to go back to the interview we had with Bob Kendrick, a very important one about the Negro League Museum and the game coming up on June 19th. That is the East-West Classic. That's with Bob Kendrick coming up next on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's number sports station 97 through the Fan. Coming up on Wednesday's show, halfway through the Padres-Dodgers series. Of course, we're going to emotionally talk about that. Coming up on Wednesday's show, we'll be halfway through the Padres-Dodgers series. I'm sure we'll have some interesting takes to discuss. Congratulations to Javi, who won the packet or the 2 tickets to the Padres Nationals game on June 23rd. First 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a free Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. Get tickets at Padres.com/tickets. Tune again tomorrow, Frank, right?
Yes, tomorrow as well.
All right, cool. Baseball coverage on 97 through the Fan presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. We had great baseball coverage earlier today, and it was such a good interview with the president of the Negro League Museum and Bob Kendrick. We wanted to replay it for you if you missed it in the 10:30 hour. Again, if you missed any of our segments, you can go back and listen via podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also rewatch it on YouTube. But earlier today, I had Bob Kendrick on, who is the president of the Negro League Museum, as he talks about a big event coming up on Thursday. And right now, I am joined by the president of the Negro League Museum. He is a member of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. He was an inductee back in 2014 for his role in what he has done as a sports administrator, but more importantly, what he has done for the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. It is a phenomenal place. I've heard great stories about it. I got to go out there and visit it myself. But Bob Kendrick joins us on the Braden Surprenant show as we talk about the East-West Classic coming up for the second annual East-West Classic, which will happen on June 19th, on Juneteenth at Rickwood Field, the legendary field. We're going to get you a full preview with that. But let's introduce our guest, Bob. Bob, what's going on? How's your Tuesday going?
Well, Tuesday's going pretty good, and thanks so much for having me on the show.
I appreciate you coming on. I mean, there's a lot of great things to talk about when it comes to the history of the Negro Leagues and celebrating the history of the Negro Leagues. And you have been part of this museum in Kansas City for a long time now. I know there's a lot of people that would like to go check it out, but how did this museum come about? How did the Negro League Museum be established? And what are some of the cool things about what this museum is in Kansas City?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've been involved with this museum. It's hard for me to believe for 32 years. I started as a volunteer in 1993. Who knew? And of course, now I have the tremendous honor of trying to lead what I think is one of the most important cultural institutions in the world, that being the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, because it brings a story that had unfortunately escaped the pages of American history books. And that's the incredible story of the Negro Leagues, a league that was established right here in Kansas City on February 13, 1920, just around the corner from where we currently operate. So we operate in the exact same area that Andrew Rube Foster established the Negro National League in 1920. The Negro Leagues would operate amazingly, folks, for 40 years, from 1920 until 1960. And so it had a tremendous run. And of course, it gave some of the greatest Black and Hispanic athletes an opportunity to showcase their world-class baseball abilities. This museum brings that story to life. And so you're going to come here and you're going to meet some of the greatest baseball players to ever put on a baseball uniform. But as I remind folks, by the time you leave, you walk away with a much deeper, richer appreciation for just how special this country really is. Because this is not a sad story. It is a triumphant story. You won't let me play with you? I'll create a league of my own. And that's exactly what they did.
Talking with Bob Kendrick, who's the Negro League Museum president, on the here on the Braden Surprenant show. We got a big event coming up. It's now the second annual East-West Classic. Our friend here, Tony Gwynn Jr., participated in it last year. But the East-West Classic, give us a little breakdown of how this came about, why the game was established, and why they play it at the historic Rick Wood Field.
Well, last year it was introduced as a showcase event in Cooperstown alongside the opening of their new Negro Leagues exhibit, Souls of the Game. And I was very fortunate to be there for the opening of the exhibition and to see this showcase event that was really kind of orchestrated by my dear friend, the great C.C. Sabathia and Ryan Howard. And of course, both of them are intimately involved in this game that will be played at Rick Wood Field this year. And of course, Rick Wood is the oldest active professional ballpark in the country. And last year, it was host to that epic international salute to the Negro Leagues that was put together to really pay tribute to Willie Mays. And you may recall that Mr. Mays passed away 2 days before we actually had that game. And for those who don't know, a 17-year-old Willie Mays would begin his career at Rick Wood Field, patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons in the Negro Leagues. And so I was thrilled to see that they are going to host another East-West All-Star game. This comes from the vaunted All-Star game that was created in the Negro Leagues in 1933, the same year as Major League Baseball's All-Star game. And as I remind my guests, yes, it did outdraw Major League Baseball's All-Star game. Fellas, they put over 50,000 fans in Chicago's Comiskey Park. And so to see CC and Ryan pull together some of their contemporaries to put on those uniforms and to recreate what was one of the greatest sporting events in American sports history, but nobody knew anything about it. It has been magical. Last year was so special that they wanted to do it again, and I hope they'll continue to do this for years to come, because it's a tremendous way to pay tribute to, again, one of the greatest sporting events that virtually no one knew anything about, the old East-West All-Star game.
Well, this one coming up on Juneteenth at Rick Wood Field has a lot of great players from Major League Baseball of years past that are playing in this particular game. You mentioned, CC and Ryan Howard, some of the guys. But how are the teams that are they the ones that send the invites out? How do they determine who gets to play, and how do they pick up their teams?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what they do. They send an invite out, and anybody who wants to play, who's able to play, can play. Yeah, and out of you all's neck of the woods, my dear friend Jerry Harrison Jr. will be there. Scott Harrison, of course, their grandfather, the late great Sam Harrison, played in the Negro Leagues. They're from 5 generations of professional Harrison ball players, and Sam played there at Rickwood Field at one point in time. And what a legacy moment that will be for them. But yeah, they go out, they send the word around, and I think they had so much fun last year, and no one got seriously hurt. That's the best part about it, because when you've been away from the game, but then when you get back in it, the adrenaline starts to flow, and you start to think that you could do things that you used to do when you were doing them, and so no one got hurt, but they had such a tremendous time that they wanted to do it again. And like I said, I hope that they will continue to bring this event to the forefront as a tribute to the history of the Negro Leagues.
Well, the rosters you can go find on MLB.com. They have the events page on there, MLB.com/events/Rickwood. It does have the rosters on there. And for maybe a lot of people here in San Diego that want to be able to watch it, is there any way you can watch from a distance?
Yeah, I think the game is going to be televised on MLB Network. And so you should be able to see the game as it is happening, or certainly a delayed version of the game. And, I'm a little disappointed because I'm not going to be able to be at Rickwood because I had an unfortunate knee surgery, which I'm going to actually have to have another surgery. And so I'm not going to be able to be there in attendance. And that's so tremendously disappointing for me, but I will be there in spirit. It would be great to be there with all of my dear friends because they're doing something special and meaningful. And anytime that we can give Negro Leagues history a mainstream voice, it is welcomed by this museum. It just continues to raise the profile and the interest in this subject matter. And I've always believed that there was never a time that people didn't want to know about the Negro Leagues. They just had no way to know about the Negro Leagues until this museum really stepped to the forefront, and now it's starting to gain notoriety.
Talking with Bob Kendrick, the Negro League Museum president, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. Bob, there's a couple of exhibits that were, here in San Diego and that are still here at the San Diego Public Library. How do you guys put exhibits out there outside of just Kansas City where you guys are located? Are there any more that go around the country? How do you guys, what are some of the events that you guys put on outside of obviously the East-West Classic, but some of the other ways that people maybe local to them can go out and learn more about the Negro Leagues?
Yeah, no, we've been very fortunate that we have built these traveling exhibitions. And so you're right, we've had a tremendous run there in San Diego with our Barrier Breaker exhibit. That's at the San Diego Public Library. It will be there through June 20th. So for those who are listening, you still have an opportunity to get down to the library and check it out. It is an extraordinary exhibition that celebrates all of Major League Baseball's integration pioneers, those players who broke their respective color barriers with each of their major league teams. Because we know Jackie Robinson's story. And if you don't know Jackie's story, you've got films, you've got books that you can turn to. But when we talk about Larry Doby, very few folks understand the significance of Larry Doby's pioneering role. He would integrate the American League just weeks after Jackie breaks the color barrier in the National League with the Cleveland Indians. And he has been the forgotten man, but that's kind of how we are in our society. We always celebrate the first. We rarely ever remember the second. And as you can well imagine, if the number 16, you can pretty much forget it. Nobody ever talks about you. And we wanted to tell their story because it didn't get any easier for Elijah Pumpsy Green, who would complete the integration cycle with the Boston Red Sox in 1959. 12 years after Jackie breaks the color barrier, Boston would be the last team to sign a black ball player, again, in Pumpsy Green. And they all had their trials and tribulations as they were trying to blaze their path to pursue their major league careers. And their stories deserve to be more than just a footnote in baseball and American history. And so we decided to create this traveling exhibition. It has been touring around the country. It is one of 7 national traveling exhibitions that we've created. And we still have designs to build at least 2 to 3 more over the next 5 years, because as much as I want everyone to come to Kansas City, I know that's not possible. We didn't want to leave this history isolated in Kansas City. So we found unique ways to tell the story and get them out to the public. And maybe that will whet your appetite to the point that you will want to come to Kansas City. And I just think it's also part of what, as a teaching institution, is what we need to do and have to do.
Last thing for you, Bob, for everybody that does want to go to Kansas City and check out this museum, what is the best way to do that, to plan the trip? Where's the best website to go check out?
You can check us out at www.nlbm.com to learn what's happening at the Negro League Baseball Museum, to make a contribution to support the Negro League Baseball Museum, to look at when you might want to come to Kansas City to enjoy this museum. You can build it around the baseball schedule. And, you know, if your team is coming in to play the Royals, or you just want to go to a major league game, come in, tour the Negro League Baseball Museum, eat some great Kansas City barbecue, and then go watch a baseball game. I don't know if it gets any better than that.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does, Bob. I'm looking forward to potentially going out there. I want to go check it out. I've heard a lot of great things about it, so it should be a good time. We put the link on our YouTube page and in our Twitch page. Bob, we appreciate the time as always, and look forward to talking to you again.
Hey, man, anytime. Thank you guys again for the opportunity. And I look forward at some point in time to welcoming you to Kansas City.
I look forward to it, Bob. Thanks again.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
Bob Kendrick, Negro League Museum president, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. As Frank said, play the Royals next year on the road. Maybe get out there for 3-game series or whatever it is. Yeah, it'd be a 3-game series.
I think now is kind of the time we start being a bunch of annoying pains in the butts about that.
That's right.
You got a full year to plan it now, instead of, waiting until 2 weeks out. Oh, hey, can we catch a flight somewhere?
That's right. All right. Never mind. Like we said before, that'd be kind of fun. Again, we got to wait for the schedule to come out for next year. The schedule usually comes out around like end of July.
Yeah,
like
it's early
August
area, yeah.
Where you can see next year's schedule. Every year's schedule is the same. It's just a matter of now, what American League cities are you going to that you didn't go to the year before, and when you play a couple of games. But you know who you're playing. I mean, you're playing everybody in Major League Baseball. You're going to play the National League West 13 times. You're going to play the rest of the National League anywhere between 6 and 7 times. And then you're going to play every team in the American League 3 times. And that's your schedule. And whoever you played on the road this year, you'll play at home next year. Kansas City comes to town this weekend to take on the San Diego Padres. Padres will take on the Dodgers tonight through Thursday, as the Padres will try to even up the series against LA. First pitch at 7:10. Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 6:10. Are you going to watch the Dodgers broadcast again? I know it wasn't a choice. It wasn't a choice.
Oh,
Frank had to do it for other reasons. It wasn't by choice.
See, this is
But
what
it
I
looked
do
like
for you guys.
Pain and suffering and cruel and unusual punishment.
This is what I do for you guys. Because seriously, if it wasn't for Ohtani, I would not have watched the game at all. I would have just been, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. I got this stuff I have to get ready for after a short turnaround from working yesterday. Oh my God. I have never seen a broadcast put on and presented for fans who don't know anything about baseball and want to keep it that way in my life. It was disgusting. The bootlicking of Shohei Ohtani to the point where it was about 5 pitches in and we're like, okay, we get it. He's the greatest ball player to ever live. Just stop saying it. Please, enough. We understand now. My God.
I didn't even rip Andy Paez today at all. I didn't even need to. Talking about a bunch of other stuff. I mean,
was
it's like
entertaining enough.
Hey, buddy. He after the game, that's why I didn't really rip into him too much. After the game, he said, like, I reacted differently than I should have. He kind of thought that the Padres hit him because he was stealing signs, which, I mean, thanks.
Way to just admit you're stealing signs at that point.
He said the Dodgers were hopping every time they thought there was a breaking ball thrown by Cease. It wasn't accurate all the time, so they weren't on it 100%. It happened a decent amount, but that's what they said. And, like, Paz, when he got hit, acted, I mean, come on, dude. It's not like you're irrelevant, like Will Smith said about Jerks and Profar, but at the same time, if we were going to send a message, the Padres are sending a message. Are they hitting Andy Pajes? No. They're not hitting Andy Pajes. Mike Schill, I love Mike Schill yesterday. He was like the first guy out of the dugout when Pajes started running his mouth. He was like, who do you think you are? I like that out of Mike Schill. The reaction from Dylan Cease was awesome. He was like, wait, is this guy for real right now? Is this guy actually upset? And then in his post game, Cease was like, I don't think I've ever hit a Dodger in my life. I think that was the first one. He run an 0-1 pitch when the score is 3-2 and runners on base. Yeah, we hit Pajes. We hit Pajes on purpose. Come on, man. What was that video? You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy, pal. I'm sorry. You're not that guy. Frank's that guy. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully after a Padres victory. Enjoy the game tonight. And we'll talk to you on Wednesday.